That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And Dragon, you and I are such DC fanboys that we're like, you know what? Endgame. What is this Endgame that's coming out? DC already did the Endgame. To paraphrase Randall in the Clerks movies, there's only one Endgame, and it's not of the Avengers, it's of Batman. Dragon, tonight we're here to talk about the most important Endgame, which is Scott Snyder's Batman Endgame. No, I'm just kidding, folks. Of course, Dragon and I, we are, among the laymen who are not in the film press or have not been invited to press screenings, who have not seen Endgame quite yet. We're not quite there, but Dragon, we will be in less than 24 hours. I would wager to say in less than 24 hours, we'll probably be approaching the film's final act, or at least with you. I think with you, you'll probably be getting out of the movie because you're 3 hours ahead of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the final countdown has begun, Dragon. And this has always been kind of the master plan with these Scott Snyder books, at least as soon as we found out that Endgame, Avengers Endgame, was going to be called Endgame, was, hey, wouldn't it be fun to release a Batman Endgame podcast on the eve of Avengers Endgame? And well, holy hell, Dragon, the fates have aligned, and here we are.
Because, of course, I haven't read the book. Like, the minute Endgame was announced as the title, because the first thing that popped in my mind was like, oh, right, just like Batman Endgame. Then, of course, you realize, oh, well, of course, it was set up by Doctor Strange. But, I mean, by the same token, though, I mean, Endgame just kind of being another, my big guy, Batman Endgame, of course, following that with Avengers Endgame. All the big ones are doing Endgame, apparently. It's a trend.
Kind of doing an Endgame of their own with not only a season finale, but a season finale that's essentially an epilogue set 10 years in the future.
Pretty much. So again, it's kind of a celebrating multiple things. We're kind of celebrating Endgame's Eve with Avengers, and of course, kind of the Endgame for Gotham. So it's all relative, folks. It's all relative, and again, Eve of many sorts. So here we are.
All right. So Dragon, I'm going to throw it to you. Because my mind is still like I said, I've been kind of absorbing a lot of this book today. Like I read it over the course of a 4-hour car ride on my Kindle, and I got a lot out of it. But I'm going to throw it to you first because I'm still kind of trying to put the pieces together on exactly how I feel about it, and maybe what you say will kind of help clarify a few points for me.
Right. So Batman Endgame is a very special story to me because I was kind of following Scott Snyder since the beginning of his DC career, since even before he did his run on Batman, back when he did Detective Comics with the big James Jr. story, Black Mirrors. I remember there was a time. Believe it or not, there was a time where just stumbling upon that story because of the good buzz it was getting, because it was a good story, and basically this story kind of became a Jim Gordon story because he was in the background issues of it. These the issues they have at the very back, at the very end of the issue, like a few pages, like so Jim Gordon's looking at some cold case files, and basically as that story progressed, it became like a full-blown Jim Gordon story about his deranged psychotic son.
Oh, yeah. I vividly remember you describing that issue for issue as it was happening.
And what happened was when that happened, after that, of course, that was my introduction to Scott Snyder. There was a time where like the year or the year after that book came out, I could just walk up to Scott Snyder, and I could just no line, basically literally no one was at the table. I could walk by, get a few issues signed, and wish him luck on the new 52. And I literally walked to Greg Capullo, and I had no idea his work on Spawn or anything. And I've only seen the one promo image for things that say, hey, good luck. And of course, the following year, basically every year since, it's just they keep blowing up and getting more popular.
Longer and longer and longer.
And crazier, as you've heard by my Comic-Con story from last year. So the point being, I've been with these boys ever since they've grown. I've been blown away by them ever since.
Boys.
Yes. the Bat Boys, if you will.
Oh God.
But no, in all seriousness, though, so the point is, like, I've been following them, of course. Like, each of these stories were kind of like a big event, a kind of awakening of an event. Of course, you had Court of Owls right out the gate. That was the big success. That's what made their names. You know, people wearing owl masks and suits, walking through conventions and all sorts. And then you have Death of the Family, which is Snyder like doing a proper Joker story. And that one was like a really big, just kind of it hit you. You know, it was a big event. Everyone was like on the edge of their seats.
That
What was going to happen?
might be my favorite of all of them because it's just a great like breakdown of the Joker as a character and as a concept, and it's got some really really messed up imagery in it with the face concept.
I think you've come around on that one a lot because I think you used to really, you really go gaga for Court of Owls the most. But I think, I think you might come around.
Yeah, I mean, I like Court of Owls a lot, but I think honestly, like revisiting because of course, as you recommended, I revisited Death of the Family before I got into Endgame, and yeah, I got to admit, Dragon, after a rewatch or a reread or whatever you want to call it, I'm kind of leaning more towards Death of the Family being the definitive Snyder book for me.
So the point is, like, each story kind of progressively kind of grabs, it's on the New York Times bestseller for good reason, and it's getting everybody hyped. And there's like kind of some tie-in stories and everything that don't really, again, you don't need the tie-in stories, so they kind of add to the experience. The best example of this was Court of Owls. They tried to do the same thing with Death of the Family, which was, for the most part, it was good. I think there was like only a few like kind of misfires. And that's not the fault of Snyder. That's DC seeing an opportunity there. But the point being. So they do these stories in Death of the Family, and this is the reason I'm dwelling on it here, is because Death of the Family comes out. And, around this time, Scott Synder, he was on Fat Man on Batman, now called Fat Man Beyond, and Kevin Smith. And basically, it was during the heights and the popularity of everything, and people were telling Kevin Smith, hey, you got to get him on the show. The the new A-team, the new creative team at DC, get him on the podcast. And they both were there individually, and then they were kind of on a team-up thing. So they basically are on like 3 or 4 videos, 3 or 4 podcasts. With Kevin Smith. And on the last one, the one where they were both on, which basically it's really, again, I just love hearing from these guys, and I just love the stories they have to tell. And the idea is like Scott Synder grew up in Gotham and Greg Capullo grew up like Batman because he had kind of a violent, they're like, again, he can capture the grittiness on the page because the man's experienced it. Greg Capullo is a really interesting story, Greg Capullo. But regardless, Scott Synder, of course, the whole philosophy of Scott Synder is Gotham is like New York, and that if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And Gotham throw its worst nightmares at you, and that's why people stay in Gotham. It's that's the cell that makes him probably my favorite Batman writer.
Yeah, Snyder definitely was among the first writers to really sell Gotham hard as a character in its own right within the story, and they like kind of digging into the history and the mythology and kind of like the urban legends. That kind of paint the city and make it what it is. And that definitely comes into play in Endgame, which we'll talk about.
And the Cell, and the reason, speaking of Cell, that's the thing, Tiki. So again, when they were on that podcast, this is where I first heard it. On that podcast, Scott Synder teased and revealed. I think he also did a few print interviews that I might have read too. It was like kind of hearing it for the first, basically, I think it was the first time that I kind of seen a few other places that Synder and Capullo were teasing that Death of the Family, like the comedy and tragedy mask, that was kind of how they sold it. There's a comedy and a tragedy mask, and you saw the comedy mask as in Death of the Family is a love story. It's Joker loving Batman, trying to improve Batman, the Bat King of Gotham, all that stuff. He's trying to help Batman, and Batman spurns his affection. So they basically tease it up in the best way possible. They had me geeking out for like a year because remember they did Zero Year after this. Basically, they held off on it, but again they put it out there like while they were in the middle of Zero Year that we did Death of the Family, and we did want to we do have a sequel in mind for Death of the Family. Again, there was no promise like when it was going to happen or even if it was going to happen. They said we do have a sequel at some point. Like for them, every book that they're put on might be their last book for all they know before they kind of got re-upped for a couple of years. And that's the thing, like because they've been doing a few there is just some filler issues, some good filler issues, but a few filler issues in between the major arcs. Anyway, point being, so they've been teasing like the next one though, Joker hates Batman. It's the revenge story. It's like he's just the point is just them teasing. Okay, so that's when Joker, all that horrible stuff in a good way, all that horrible stuff in Death of the Family that just had you on the edge of your seat. That was Joker in love. Imagine Joker if he hates Batman. Like, oh my God, how much more sold on a story can you be? And just ever since it's been on my mind. And basically, what happens, Tiki, is issue 35 comes out, Endgame, and no one really, again, they never gave this story a title, Endgame. And at the end of Endgame, at the end of issue 1, you have the big reveal, like who's pulling the strings behind, the big Justice League stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is the story. You can imagine my excitement, everyone's excitement, like, oh my god, they finally got into it. Because again, they threw you off with Zero. You're like, oh man, I wonder. I guess they're not doing that story quite yet. But man, if Snyder gets to it, maybe the first thing I said when I saw him during this, like, oh my god, guys, you finally did it. I was so excited about it. But yeah, again, overall in terms of the story itself, I mean that's just all the hype and everything surrounding it. So I was already in for Endgame, but I think Endgame, upon revisiting and just kind of always kind of digesting, because of course when it comes out, it's kind of like how we did Kidding, Tiki. It's like Endgame's a story you want to binge, but when it comes out, you're going to reread it a couple times, because especially when you're this is like the 4th story that they've done together, so it's like, oh, you're definitely going to be in for it. So it's it's a great razor-focused story that knows exactly what it is. And of course, they've been around the rodeo. They did their most ambitious thing with Zero Year, so they know exactly what they want to do. So this is them kind of at their peak in terms of like know-how story. Like they know what they can do and what they can get away with, and DC's not telling them what to do anymore. It's really good stuff. I mean, there's a lot of pressure to follow up, after Death of the Family, which again is kind of the precursor, and of course Zero Years. There's a lot of pressure on this story, but by the same token, again, a lot of the pressure's off because there's not really any it's like you're too big to fail sort of territory within the book, and I think that shows in that we're going nuts and we're going crazy, but we know we know the story we're telling, and this Scott Snyder has framed it like this, and I feel this is a really good summation of what the book is that. Scott Snyder, each of the main stories have kind of reflected an element of Scott Snyder, where Scott Snyder has like a view of Batman. A view like Court of Owls is Bruce thinking he's familiar with that's the cell of like how he views Gotham. That's a story about Gotham. And then you get to Death of the Family, and that's kind of the big Joker story. That's kind of the Batman's family and the Joker. And then you get the Zero Year, and Zero Year is how Scott Snyder wants Batman to be perceived for his kids and for the future generations, like a hopeful story about Batman inspiring Gotham and all that stuff. Kind of he's laying the foundation for Endgame there. Then we get Endgame, which is kind of the unfettered, kind of a little bit more tragic sense of what Batman is to Scott Snyder. So it's all really reflective of what this character means to him and what his view of him is, which I think comes in the full clarity at the very end of the story, which we'll get to.
All right. I can. That last point really brought it home for me, Dragon. Kind of like the different points of view, the different time frames in Batman's life, the different it's almost like snapshots in his career that tie together in really interesting ways, especially through the use of the city as kind of like I said, almost like a main character throughout these arcs. Okay, so here's the deal. Obviously, Dragon, I don't have the personal investment that you have in this, because obviously I don't have like that personal story of like knowing Snyder and then like knowing him before he blew up and everything. Like, and good on you, man, because that's an awesome story. So, Dragon, I thought this one was good. Like, there were definitely great moments in it. I don't think it was as focused as any of the others, and that's kind of where it got me. I felt like in some areas it kind of bordered on maybe going into a little bit of a Grant Morrison direction with things just kind of being like weird and trippy for the sake of being weird and trippy. And I don't know if I just I tried to read this as slowly as I could given the circumstances. I had all day, so I didn't want to just breeze by it. I wanted to really kind of take it in and absorb it, but I don't know, man. It's like, it's interesting with these Joker stories, because I feel like Death of the Family very much had Death of the Family had more sort of like, it had more of an iconography to hang its hat on, and the iconography was, of course, the Joker face, the stapled Joker face. Like, I feel like the whole face motif with Death of the Family was sort of like the big thing that makes that book super memorable, of course, leading to the horrifying set piece at the end, that dinner sequence, and the dinners being revealed and all that, all that, Dragon. That's still some of the best Batman stuff I've ever read, honestly. Of course, Batman comforting Damian Wayne, like, how bad is it, father? How bad is it? Like, all that is fucking wonderful, Dragon. And this one, for as good as it is, And it's definitely got good moments in it. It's definitely got a lot of creepy stuff going on with the Joker. I do like that it expands the Joker mythology and we get some kind of, some otherworldly stuff with the Joker. And Dragon, I want to just emphasize as a finale, it's a satisfying finale. However, I know that Batman's going to be back, so I don't know. I didn't dig it, Dragon. I wasn't like reading it and being like, oh man, like it wasn't like a page turner for me. But by the same token, I read it pretty quickly given the circumstances, so I was never bored by it. I don't know. Maybe I just kind of hyped it up a little bit too much in my head. I don't know what exactly I was expecting. Maybe there's some continuity stuff in between some of the new 52 filler stuff, like that just kind of caught me off guard at first. For example, Alfred's daughter, I didn't know who the hell she
Well,
was.
I'll explain that in the background. There's
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. But yeah, Dragon. I mean, generally speaking, this one, like if we're breaking down just the four that we've covered, Court of Owls, of course, it's kind of like a reinvention of Batman. It opens things up with a bold new set of villains that's really unique to anything that's been done in Batman's Rogues Gallery before. And those villains are directly tied to the kind of like ancient history of Gotham. That story's got a really unique identity. Of course, I just talked about Death of the Family with the Faces structure. And Zero Year, I feel like Zero Year is like the third best of these. But I feel like Zero Year definitely, I don't know, Dragon, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like I'm kind of like debating between Zero Year and Death and Endgame in terms of being like the least great of all the really good Snyder stuff. But I'm probably leaning towards Zero Year kind of being like the, a really, really solid, well-told story that just is a little bit less connected because it is just kind of a prequel story that sets up the groundwork. Whereas you could look at Court of Owls, Death of the Family, Endgame as kind of like a trilogy in its own right. So I'll go as far as to say that, Dragon. I think I would definitively rank Court of Owls and Death of the Family be above this. But that's not to say that this is a bad movie at all. And that's not, and it kind of like, it's kind of one of the points that I want to make with Endgame, Dragon, is that if we come out of Endgame and we say like, oh man, that's like, that's maybe not quite in our top 5 MCU movies, but definitely in our top 10, and Dragon, I mean, to me, it's like the MCU is so stacked, I think it'd be an honor for Endgame to get into the top 10 at this point. But there's inevitably people that are going to be like, Endgame isn't your number 1 MCU movie? That means you didn't like it. You know what I mean, Dragon? And I just want to emphasize that I'm not one of those people. Like, I'm not like I definitely enjoyed Endgame, Batman Endgame, for what it was. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it, especially sort of the urban legend elements of it that we'll get into. As I kind of explained to you in that message that I sent you, though, I kind of walked away from it being like, I don't know. I kind of get this looming sense that there were things that I should have picked up on thematically and just in terms of story structure that I think maybe went over my head a little bit. I think part of that is just kind of like I said, the Grant Morrison kind of style of storytelling that we kind of dive into just a little bit here and there. We kind of dip our toes in the Morrison well a little bit. So like I said, Dragon, it's not perfect by any means. It's definitely a distant third below Death of the Family and Court of Owls, but it's still very good. It's probably like I would say it's like the Return of the Jedi of the Scott Snyder saga. You know what I mean? Return of the Jedi is still a damn good movie.
Right. Well, I mean, one, just to assuage you a little bit here. I mean, like for me, I agree with your sentiments in that, basically with Snyder, it's an embarrassment of riches. I mean, you really can't miss in terms of like Death of the Family is probably my favorite of the Snyder stories, despite the fact, like for example, the next story after this is probably like personally it has like I have the most attached to it, but it's not my favorite, but it's a really good story. And I can make you can make an argument for any of the stories being like kind of the best one, but again, it's I don't know, it's like Death of the Family. There's something really special, but it's only 5 issues, and again, like each issue has a you're so sucked in the narrative about what's going to happen. It's just kind of hard to beat it. So for that reason, like Death of the Family was like was like the Joker event, for our generation, where we wouldn't have that. It's like, there's death in the family way back when, there's Killing Joke, you have all those milestones in the Batman history, specifically the Batman Joker history. And like for us, I think that probably be the closest thing we had to that was Death of the Family, which for me is probably why it's probably my favorite of the Snyder stories. In regards to the Grant Morrison thing, I will say this: I think Snyder has a great argument for like against the Grant Morrison Batman in this. But again, that's not the here nor there. I'll say this much, Tiki. The the one that I think you might really like, the one that I've kind of been teasing up to you, like the Thor Ragnarok of the Batman of the Snyder Capullo stuff, the Batman Metal. Remember that? That's the most Morrison one to me. That's why that one kind of loses me. It's not bad. It's just a little bit Morrison-y for me. So I don't know. It's interesting that you say that. But anyway, so all that said,
keep in mind, I am not an expert on Morrison by any means. I've only like kind of lightly dipped my toe in the Morrison well as it is. So I'm not like, I'm not one to like pick out his style and be like, that's definitely Morrison, man, 100%. I don't claim to be a Morrison expert. So. Right. Just to get that out there.
Right. Well, I mean, on the whole, the thing I really, again, I don't want to split hairs. For me, I always think the story's a little bit underrated because of the fact because they keep hitting out of the ballpark, especially with the first three. The first three have like kind of a great gimmick, and this is a sequel I think pairs best with Death of the Family. But by the same token, there's something really refreshing when you come back to it. For me, I think it's ones like one when I think it's going to be a situation to you where you revisit like Death of the Family, you might like it more. But again, I guess only time will tell on that one anyway. So.
Dragon, I'm glad you bring that up because I think this is absolutely going to be a situation where it's like, I really wish I had time to read this a second time. I really do. Because I definitely think there's going to be layers of it, even after spending an hour and a half watching comics explained videos. I definitely think there's going to be thematic layers and and hidden meanings and all that to what Snyder's trying to say with this that I'm just simply not going to pick up on until I have a chance to read it again. So I just want to kind of plant that flag at the top of our conversation as we dive into things. I'm very much the novice on the story, if you will, Dragon. You are our wilderness explorer in this world of Batman Endgame. I don't know why it's a wilderness explorer. I guess I'm in an up mood.
Right. Caw, roar. Anyway.
I guess that won't work.
All right. Okay. So lowering people from floating houses.
No, it's like I'm like lowering you from the house, like, and you're on your laptop, just like still talking to the microphone, and I'm just like, all right, time to play some Tetris 99, and then you're just still on the podcast, like Tiki, you need to get me up. I'm like, do I really have to, Dragon? All right. Anyways,
that took a weird turn, but that's not even the scene from the movie. Anyway, so okay, getting back. Let's go with a little bit of background here. I'm going to try to condense it here, but because we went over a lot of points already, but let me try to get to the important stuff. So, background Endgame is like so. So of course, I already mentioned the kind of teasing up the origin of it's kind of the sequel of Death of the Family. It's like what if the Joker hates Batman and for spurning his affections. What you need to know is that this story came out. Of course, most of these stories range for roughly a year because now they're going. Batman's coming out more frequently than ever right now. But there was a time where it was like a monthly to like a bi-weekly sort of thing. So or really a bi-monthly sort of thing. Usually a monthly book. So the point being, this came out from 2014 to 2015. So those years are very important because 2014 and 2015 are both the respective 75th anniversaries of Batman and the Joker. Batman turned 75 in 2014. Joker turned 75 in 2015. So nice. Essentially, take what this story is. This is Snyder's kind of testimony to Batman and the Joker, specifically their rivalry, their history together after 75 years. And the other big thing, the fill in some blanks for you here with the story. So the other thing that was going on, this is big, and Snyder was very much tied into this. But again, I didn't expect you to go through this. In retrospect, I kind of forgot like how much this factored in, and basically in the status quo.
Yeah, so Dragon, I hope you can understand how I was like, especially like in the opening moments of this, I was a little like, wait a minute, should I have read another book? What's going on here?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So it's bit look, again, I read it while it's coming out. And basically, I'm focusing a little bit more past the first issue. Basically, the first issue puts into play that's the status quo stuff that I kind of was lost on me, like until the reader. I was like, but the point being is this: so there was an event that happened again for the 75th anniversary for 2014. What they did was they did something called Batman Eternal, which I believe I told you about, but just to go over the basics of it, just very simply. Scott Synder and a whole lot of other Batman writers. So basically, Snyder captained the ship, but they all like had ideas and stuff during the book, and it's really hard to discern like who came up with what. But Scott Synder basically was leading the charge for the 75th anniversary, like for the whole year of Batman's Batman's anniversary. I believe like from March to whenever the year ran out, so even bled over into the following year. They came out with the book Batman Eternal. It's basically it's a 52 issue story. So you understand why I didn't say Tiki, read this. Here's the thing. So Batman Eternal, it was a 52 issue thing, which as you'd imagine with any 52 issue story, you get it 52 issues for basically a year in comics is 52 issues. And
okay, that's clever. That's clever.
So the point being 50 anyway, so the point is like that was
do they like a calendar year in the life of Batman?
Well, from what I can remember, it's been a while because what I'm getting at, because as you can imagine, with a 52 issue story, there are going to be moments where it drags.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, because basically what happened to you, it's kind of a big reunion piece. That's kind of what it's like. There's a big overarching mystery where someone's gunning for Batman, and like someone's behind all this, and you don't find out. There are stories in between. That's where you have like your highs and lows. Where sometimes there's going to be a storyline that doesn't grab you because it's about everybody. It's Batman's the lead character. Obviously, I'm more drawn to the Batman side of the story, and something really big happened with Jim Gordon. Like issue 1 is the big sell where, again, I don't want to just get into the whole thing. The point is like Jim Gordon is kind of framed for murder, framed for a horrible murder. Like basically, it's like a train gets derailed because of Jim Gordon. He was framed for. So Jim Gordon is put in black. And remember when we were doing Gotham way back when, season 2, when he was put in Blackgate, that was what they were borrowing it from. Batman Eternal, Jim Gordon's thrown in prison for a year for the story.
You see, Dragon, it's all coming together. It's like poetry. It rhymes. It's just.
But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But seriously, see what I'm saying? So the point is, like, obviously,
I get you.
So I'm
in all seriousness, I think it's cool that like these, these different elements, these different branches of DC can kind of like leapfrog and inspire each other in different ways and kind of take and borrow from each other. You know what I mean?
Precisely. So anyway, so we have like a bunch of stories going on there, and so the main plot is Batman trying to figure out who framed Gordon and who's responsible for the big kind of conspiracy of it all. That's the main mystery, and beyond that, you have like basically again you have Batman villains who kind of come into play. They kind of drift in and out. They're reintroducing characters like Spoiler who haven't been introduced in the new 52. So basically, it's a celebration of 75 years of Batman, including so basically like I'm not big on Spoiler, therefore that stuff. Well, the character spoilers. So again, that's where they're kind of weighing my interest. They had Deacon Blackfire, who I don't really care about, but that's the sort of stuff I was drifting out of. But of course, when the main story, it's like a video game. I care about the main story, but kind of some of the side mission stuff. In that case, that's where they're kind of losing me in places. Anyway, the point is they introduced a number of things in that story. Like the two big things that you need to know for this story, for the status quo. Two big things. One, we introduced Alfred's long lost daughter, Julia Pennyworth.
Okay. Yes. This was definitely the thing. Like I said, where I was like, okay, who is this? Who is this exactly?
So unfortunately, Tiki, here's the thing. So Julia Pennyworth, like in the next Snyder story, she plays a role because she was introduced here, and the idea is like she was introduced in the so between 0 Year and Endgame, you had Batman Eternal. So Batman Eternal is like the main Bat book that was going on and basically kind of filling the void for what Snyder was doing in between books. That was the main thing he was doing. Because plus when 0 Year's coming out, it's like in the past, so it didn't interfere with Eternal. So they're kind of spaced out in the perfect way. You get it. So it's like 0 Year also had kind of an ulterior motive to it by DC standards. Like, well, while they're telling a story in the past, we can do stuff in the present so people won't get confused. Follow me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Anyway, so Julia Pennyworth, she was like during like they call it pre-crisis, like way back in kind of like the 50s weird days of Batman. Like when things got really we threw everything. Kind of during those years, those really early years of Batman before Crisis on Infinite Earths, the big story where they basically said, forget all the multiple Earths, we're just going to make one big Earth.
Okay.
During that time, like on the Alfred had a daughter. Basically, during his wartime service, he sired a daughter with like kind of a bad guy, with a lady spy, and that daughter was Julia Pennyworth. And there's always a question like, is she his daughter? Is she not? And that was an old idea that, of course, when Crisis rolls around, they kind of erase that from existence. And this new 52 story, Batman Eternal, brought it back. Now I don't know all the ins and outs, and I don't think they do either at this point. The point is, like I said, Alfred, Alfred had a daughter, and the idea is that she lost respect for her father, and she's been really distant because she thought that, oh yeah, you're basically you're the butler to Bruce Wayne. You're serving this marshmallow of a guy here, and of course she finds out during that story, oh my God, Bruce Wayne's Batman. So that's kind of she earns respect for her father, and she's kind of back in the fold. She kind of is like Alfred gets hurt in that story, which kind of that's kind of what they're referencing here too. Alfred in this story, he's traumatized by death of the family and the events of Batman Eternal. So that's kind of why she's in the fold. You follow?
Yeah, I got you.
So basically, it's like she's back in Alfred's life, and that's kind of where we're all in the status quo. And the other big thing is that we have a new base at the start of this story because Wayne.
Easier for me to follow. I was like, all right, I can get behind this. It kind of reminded me of how Christopher Nolan did different Bat caves and different stories.
Yeah, it's kind of a bat bunker, but it's kind of a broad daylight bat bunker. And basically, the only thing you need to know is that in Eternal, Arkham got blown up as part of like the big overarching scheme. Arkham got blown up, so Bruce Wayne turned Wayne Manor into the new Arkham Asylum. So it's called Arkham Manor. For a while, that's kind of what they had going on. So he couldn't. It would make things difficult to get to the Batcave. You can catch my meaning. So he has a new base. That's okay. Really all you need. Arkham Manor and Julia Pennyworth, those are the main things.
And of course, someone getting into the Batcave was a big source of tension in Death of the Family.
Exactly. So like the Batcave exists, but it's like, it's you can get a bit like the Batcave is now under Arkham Asylum, which is creepy in itself. So they're trying to relocate the base.
Unlike the Batcave in Gotham.
Yeah, pretty much. And I guess the last thing that does correlate to the story is that in Arkham Manor, Batman befriends a doctor in Arkham who's named Eric Border, who of course what the big payoff was with that. So that was kind of the other inkling. So he made a friend with like a new doctor in Arkham who's helping facilitate the transition between Arkham Asylum and Arkham Manor. So he had like this one kind of like like a Harvey Dent of Arkham doctors. That's kind of what you had going on with Eric Border. So. And of course, we'll get to that when we get to it. But okay, let me see if there's anything major here. So I think it's pretty much all you need. That's all you need to know with the background. But let me just make absolute certain here because we already went over the comedy tragedy thing. Again, Snyder does research like crazy. Like he looked into Dionysus, the Greek god of madness, and he actually learned a really interesting factoid that bled into. And again, he uses this all in the story, where Greek myth is that Dionysus, the Greek god of madness, he would feast upon. Basically, there would be this ritual of Gotham has a translation, Tiki, if you can believe it. Gotham in certain translations, I believe it's like an ancient Greek translation. Gotham actually translates to essentially sacrifice of goats.
Oh God.
So again, like and you kind of get the parallel here. What Snyder's kind of going for is that the goats are sacrificed. I forget if it was directly for Dionysus or Snyder made the connection there, but the point being, Gotham is like sacrificial lambs, in this case, sacrificial goats for a god of madness. You can kind of see how that plays into things. Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's the main point. Again, and kind of Snyder realizes kind of as we revealed in Zero, we have kind of a Joker origin in that. So again, retroactively, we have kind of a trilogy of Joker stories within Snyder's run. Endgame is kind of the ending to that trilogy. You got Zero chronologically, and then you have Death of the Family, and then Endgame.
All right. So, all right. In mind, do you want to just start breaking it down, Dragon?
Yes, let's get things started.
I don't know really how we're going to do on the time. We'll do as good as we can. All right, let's just keep this clipping at a good pace.
Okay, part 1, issue 35. Basically, this is the big kind of Justice League attack issue. So again, we already went over the status quo, so we don't need to really reiterate that. So again, all that's pretty much
after the status quo setup. I do like how this story does kind of start pretty balls to the walls of like, bam, hello, Wonder Woman coming in, attacking Batman head on. She's not taking any prisoners. What's going on? This is just a crazy way to start, Dragon. And I gotta say, this was definitely one of the more memorable openings to one of these Snyder books.
Absolutely, but even before the Waymo Blamo stuff, I think we're doing some really, really great, clever foreshadow and setup for the whole thing, Tiki. Where there are two things that we set up here, and like before, that basically plays like again. We have like a great, even every issue kind of has like is almost like kind of like a Swiss watch to quote, like a Swiss egg to quote Peter Gould from Better Call Saul. You know, it's kind of so basically we have two things set up that really bleed throughout the whole book in a really great way. So we one like the one bit of status quo, I guess that we should talk about is the Cassandra strain of fear toxin. So this is a thing where again I didn't know about this until I reread it just for this, Tiki. And apparently, because I assumed the Cassandra strain was just a reference to Cassandra came, but no, what actually is that at the end of Endgame, it's kind of like the end of the Arkham at the end of Batman Eternal, it's kind of like the end of the Arkham games, where okay, Batman's going off on yet another, he's going to save the day yet again, one of those endings, right?
Yeah, sure.
And essentially, it was like after exonerating Jim Gordon and kind of the status quo being kind of returned a little bit. Jonathan Crane has the Scarecrow's attacking you up for it and you up for it, and basically they're both buddies and they're both about to go stop the Scarecrow. And the idea and the really cool thing is that in between, it's basically Batman. We pick up right after Batman Eternal left off, and that's really cool. Is that okay? He got gassed by the Scarecrow in that encounter, and that's what he's shaking off the after effects. So I didn't know that until I reread. Like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Oh man.
The point being, so the important thing about this, again, that's just a little Easter egg for me, I guess. But beyond that, it's no, but seriously, the really cool thing is,
man, that kind of went a little over my head. But hey, I like that you got something out of it.
No, but the serious thing we do need to talk about is like the effects of the Cassandra strain of fear toxin is that Batman, again, this puts the whole Endgame into play right now. Is that
Batman is essentially like, I don't know, this is just the way I read it, Dragon. Like Batman is kind of getting like these sort of like doomsday type situations that kind of remind me of like Professor X's apocalyptic visions in the X-Men movies.
And that's pretty much what it is. That's it's the idea is Batman. He's getting Batman is a guy who thinks of God knows how many contingencies.
Like basically, the fear toxin is getting to the point where it's affecting your mind and it's making you think like, oh my god, like I'm literally like seeing my death over and over, and it's kind of like getting like a PTSD like trippy psychedelic side to it.
And that's essentially like Batman's shaking off the effects, but what it's doing is it's putting in perspective. Batman is like the pragmatic, kind of Batman who always like has a contingency for everything. Is kind of playing out these various doomsday situations that he's probably thought in life, like it could go down this way. He's just thinking of the future and seeing all the different ways, like the worst, like the no-win situation that he'd be faced with, like his death. Like the age-old question with Batman is like, how do you kill off Batman? Like how would you kill Batman? Of course, there's a line in the animated series, but you haven't gotten to it, so I won't spoil it here. But let's just say, the classic of the idea is like Batman could go down in a randomly, or he could go down like always. Is it always going to be a bout with the Joker? Is it going to be like, is it Bane going to get him one of these days? Like you can go down any number of ways, and that's kind of what Batman's being faced with right now, And again, it's like the question of like, what could the end of Batman be for him? And that's putting in perspective, like in his face at the start of this. And we kind of have like each issue almost as like a check-in of like what he's hallucinating now. Like, what does the ending look like now?
Right,
like, is it an army of killer crocs? Is it an alien invasion? Is it Wonder Woman? Like,
can we just kind of put this in a checklist of like stuff that this story does better than Batman v Superman?
Oh sure, yeah, it does the whole like does the Nightmare Batman a lot better. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. So again, this is a great device to put in the plot. And again, I think justifies the title right off the bat with this sort of thing. And then the other thing we have going on that bleeds into the Wonder Woman and Justice League stuff is the Deus Ex Machina idea. I love the Deus Ex Machina idea, especially on a reread tease. The Deus Ex Machina. So we start things off as any Snyder story with architecture talk. And I love it. We have the ideas like after 0 year, and Tiki, the one last thing I should mention to code all of this is that as far as Snyder and Capullo were concerned, this was their last Batman story. So this does tie all loops together because again, they didn't know they were coming back.
Oh, okay.
So it's something kind of neat with like all these. Again, that's why they were mentioning 0 year at the start of this. Like, okay, so after 0 year, the first thing they rebuilt after the infrastructure was Gotham Royal Theater and about the arts program and everything.
Uh-huh.
And basically the idea is like during I believe it's called Orestes, or I'm probably butchering the name, Orestes. Basically, this harness that essentially is a Deus Ex Machina of like God kind of going down to save Apollo, save the hero of the play. And we see that like this trust, and basically the theater is intersecting with the main story, the ending of this first part here, where like Batman's being thrown through the theater, and the idea is that Snyder is all about humanizing Bat-God. Now, Bat-God is the nickname for the Grant Morrison Batman, by the way. Bat-God is
Oh
like,
dear God! Oh man, this is Dragon. This is exactly what I was kind of terrified of. This is a lecture, man. I don't know how I'm going to keep up with this.
well, no, I mean, look, I'm just saying that's the nickname for the thing
Bad
about.
God.
Look, I'm just that's the shorthand for it. Basically, it's the idea, like the Batman who has like contingency for every single thing, like a Batman
Okay.
who like knows like basically a Batman who knows too much, who could never you could never land a blow on the guy. Like, what are the stakes if Batman knows everything, if he's untouchable? It's that sort of Batman, you know.
Sure, I guess.
And that's just kind of that's Bat Gods. That's kind of what that's what they call like a Batman who like knows everything, who's thought about every single contingency. Like he knows like things that no human would. I mean, world's greatest detective. Then there's like super omniscient. We're like, where's the stakes?
Hmm.
And anyway, so this it's basically the Deus Ex Machina here that we're setting up is that Batman again playing into the back of things like a Batman who always has a way out. Like there's always an escape route. Like there's always like he's always going to be in a situation where it's it's kind of Snyder looking at the '60s principle of Batman. Like Adam West Batman will get in any situation. He'll always like tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. He's always going to be in a death trap, and he's always going to get out of it. And that's kind of what we're doing with the Deus Ex Machina here. We're setting up that classically Batman's going to get out of things like he always does because of the Deus Ex Machina, but we see the Deus Ex Machina in issue 1 get destroyed. So we're saying that Batman might not find a way out of the story, and that's kind of what the whole story's about. So I thought that was kind of a clever.
Yeah, I mean the whole story definitely does have this tone of like, all right, we're gonna do familiar things within Batman iconography, but unlike a story like Death of the Family, which does those things but plays it relatively straight, and if anything, kind of plays them more serious. This story just kind of like offhands expectations at every turn, so that makes it a little bit more, a little bit more suspenseful in that regard.
Yeah, Death of the Family is how is Batman going to how's Batman going to stop the Joker? What is the Joker up to? That's a mystery there. But of course, Endgame is each issue progresses with the situation gets worse and worse and worse, and the question is how the heck is Batman going to stop this? It's like the things get increasingly hopeless, yeah. And that's destroying the Deus Ex Machina.
The fun thing about it is that it just kind of like I said, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just kind of like this snowball effect of just like chaos that we're in the middle of in this opening action set piece.
Right, so back to the opening action set piece itself. So again, like Wonder Woman just comes out right out the gate, and Batman just so luckily he grabbed the utility belt to kind of use basically use the sonics against her, just, kind of like go for the senses with like a sonic device in her ears, and we see that Batman dons the Justice Buster. So the Justice Buster is kind of like imagine the Hulk Buster but with contingencies. That's what separates it from it's not just like like Batman's throwing money around just to beat something giant. It's like no, it's like he's. That's the thing I love. That's what separates it. It's like it's all the contingencies to beat the Justice are in this thing. It just happens to be a giant robot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea as much as I kind of find it amusing that in my own head canon, Bruce Wayne is just watching Avengers Age of Ultron, and he's like, hey, we can do that, but better.
Yeah.
But no, I do think it's a pretty cool kind of practical costume. I got to admit, Dragon, I think I like it maybe a little bit more than the classic Frank Miller,
the armor,
Batman robot suit.
Right. That's fair. But I love this. I love all the contingencies he has kind of worked out. I guess it just shows Snyder's like not losing anything. And a guy who does his research, like Wonder Woman, like the way to defeat her is like it's like an ancient Hephaestus weave. It's like a thing that will stunt. Again, essentially, it's like the old thing. How do you defeat Wonder Woman? You bind her bracelets together. She's bound by essentially it's like a reverse lasso. It's kind of what used against her. It's like she's covered in like a lasso of truth, but it's like kind of like a forged by the gods, supposedly. And then we have the Flash, and the Flash is cool, like how Greg Capullo renders, because the idea is like in like slow mo, Batman is defeating the Flash, and it's really cool. Like Flash is like dismantling the armor at like at hyper speed, and Batman has like this in a split second. Only will this only work? You know, where he uses like the frictionless coating. Like he basically takes the friction away from the ground, and Flash slips and falls, and he's done.
One of my favorite moments is basically like the "not you too, Arthur."
Yep, Aquaman. And Aquaman he uses the basically it's like a foam. He uses like a moisture reducing
Yeah,
a
this
moisture reduction.
like I think Aquaman was like maybe the standout of the fights besides the evil Superman reveal that we'll get to in just a minute.
Yeah, and again, it's all solid pseudoscience, Tig. You know me, I love my pseudoscience. It's like powdered
Dragon, that's the interesting side of things that I think I forgot to mention with my thesis statement. I'm sure you probably brought it up in your thesis statement somewhere, but excuse me, probably the most fascinating element of this book to me is that kind of duality, that war between like the pseudoscience and the supernatural and how close they are to each other. And that gets me excited about this book. And I don't know, who knows? I have a feeling that maybe after we've talked through this book, I might be even more on board with it. So we'll see.
So anyway, so after Aquaman, and I love this, and I love that Batman. He's like preparing for Cyborg and Green Lantern, but again, he's like, I pray that he's off world, and of course, like smashing him through the theater. That again, the theater that we were talking about earlier with the very start of the book, with the destruction of the Deus Ex Machina. Superman arrives, and then of course Batman's wondering why the heck are they again? Right now they seem all normal and everything, and like why are they attacking me? They hate me all of a sudden. Why? And then they all begin to laugh. And then Tiki, you gotta remember again, if you didn't know what this story was, this was the big reveal to what they were doing. Like, oh my god, it's the big Superman with a smile, and no one's going to save you, laughing with that grin and like that he's back. It's like, oh my god.
I mean, here's the thing, Dragon. You know, with this being a Joker story and everything, obviously my first instinct as soon as I saw this play out was like, okay, this has got to be, this has got to be them under some sort of control of the Joker, either like a mind chip or a toxin or God knows what. It's like, but that's where my mind did immediately go to. I don't necessarily think it's supposed to be a big mystery or anything.
Well, I mean, obviously, going into it, it's going to be a sequel to Death of the Family, sure.
Right, but Dragon, I think you're right that if this wasn't so advertised as a sequel to Death of the Family, it would be a hell of a way to just be like, okay, folks, this might be a huge status quo change here. Like, this is pardon the pun, this is Endgame level shit going down with all these heroes kind of turning against each other in the streets.
And that's the thing, like the first thing, think about this, Steve, the first thing the Joker throws at Batman in the story, of like all the horrible things he's going to do to him when he hates him, the first thing that he does, essentially, he takes control of four of the most powerful individuals on the planet, Batman's buddies, and he turns them against them. Like he sicks Superman on Batman, and like essentially in the first two issues, and then we get part two, it brings us to part two with the big... Basically, as I like to call it, the real Snyder's BVS.
Oh God. Okay, hold on. This is where I changed the image out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Dragon. I mean, of course, it's not here. This is this is what I like to call the Joker thesis statement,
and it is absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely the Batman Superman fight. It's like, there's no Martha. I feel like it goes on for a little bit longer than the Batman v Superman fight, but by the same extent, it doesn't overstay its welcome at all. I feel like the kind of like the sense of broken camaraderie between the two of them is a little bit more on point. Just overall, way better. I mean, it's not hard to be better than Batman v Superman, but just for the record, this is a way better Batman v Superman than Batman v Superman.
We also have the novelty that's by another Snyder, so of course a little bit of
right.
The big again, take it the real that's the BVS I want to see. I want to see SVS. I want to see New York Snyder versus
man.
LA Snyder. Of course, unfortunately, here's the thing: as much as I love Scott Snyder, I mean, let's face it, Zack Snyder's in better shape. If we ever saw that fight, it probably wouldn't be that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay. Point being, no. we're getting all the reason it's far better fight. You have like it's a reluctant fight right out the gate, and for good reason. Of course, we explain this via the virus in the next issue, like what exactly how this virus works, like why everyone's attacking him and everything. But so we have a good reason for it later on. But even in the moments, like Batman's like he's reluctantly fighting Superman, but he always has the contingency ready. And you'll notice, I think the grand takeaway for me on a reread was that it's interesting that Batman's compassion that, like there's a famous story called Tower of Babel that's all about Batman having contingencies that hurt his friends. And there's an animated movie about it called Just Like Doom, which I'd highly recommend to you. But the point is,
and then of course there's like the death of the family where he's just like, he doesn't want to let the family in on that. And that's ultimately his downfall is kind of like the lack of making contingencies and just kind of going at it alone and having a one-track mind about the situation.
And to me, what I saw here on a reread is that, okay, we're doing something interesting here. Where again, he's come a long way since Death of the Family because he's like Batman Eternal and so on and so forth. They've mended the fences, but it's still a fractured thing that Joker did to him. So the point is like they've been interacting, but they're still Batman has learned from the experience. He's trying to reach out to him. He's making the effort, and I feel to me. Because basically during the Superman fight, we did a lot of really cool things. Where we have like the Red Sun gauntlets, and there's like a little name drop to the Atom, where it's like thanks to Ray Palmer, he's actually shrunk actual Red Suns into the suit. So that's awesome. And he's like fighting him with the Red Sun. And of course, when he punches Superman in the face, like he's bleeding because Red Suns make him vulnerable. And basically, we have like the full Joker, full Joker look with like the red lips of the blood and everything. So it looks horrifying. And the idea is like Batman can anticipate Superman, but what he didn't anticipate was Superman's like lack of regard, his lack of morals. Because again, he was like destroying like, the whole building. And that's how he got the drop on Batman. Because Batman again had basically Batman's compassion, like he didn't want to hurt his friend and everything. The idea, like I think it's turning like Batman's learning curve from Death of the Family that he's trusting people more, but that does come at a cost. He's using. He's going like the full non-lethal approach, which he should, but he's going maybe a little bit of a softer touch than he should against his friends than he had in the past, like all these other stories,
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, the thing way better than a kryptonite spear. He beats Superman with a
gum. Way better than a kryptonite spear that Amy Adams throws in the water and then has to retrieve 5 minutes later.
Yeah, but seriously, how cool is it? Like the kryptonite.
Amy Adams arrives on the scene just to explain the plot to Batman.
Seriously, isn't the kryptonite gum a lot better? Because it's like this really.
You know what I like about the kryptonite gum dragon? You know what I found really captivating about that?
What?
Is that in the moment as it's going down, Superman is basically telling Batman, by the way, he says, what's the line, Dragon?
Well, if you're talking about this, it's that throughout the fight, he's kind of again as kind of a Jokerized Superman. He's like, who wins in a fight between Batman versus Superman? Of course, they get up there and Batman wins, and basically Batman either in the inner monologue or out loud he says, no one, or neither of us win. Like no one wins when Batman fights Superman.
Okay, but shit, I'm looking for a specific line where this guy's like taunting him, and then Batman is just basically he's insinuating that Joker sent him a taunt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know you're talking about this. I don't have it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you know what I'm talking about, right? And the thing that I thought was awesome was that basically just in the sheer, like, Batman is so repulsed by Joker, like repulsed by the idea that Joker is in Superman's mind taunting Batman. He's so repulsed by that he literally just gives a spit in the face.
Yeah, you're right. That is great. Yeah.
I mean, of course, we get the plot reason for it very quickly, but in the moment I was like, oh my God, Batman just got vindictive there.
Again, just defeat him with Red Sun and kryptonite gum in the face, just spit in Superman's eye. See, Zack Snyder, take some notes. That's all you need. Just spit in the eye and snap him out of it.
Oh God.
Anyway, so so then after that we have kind of like, basically it's general like a little like a touch of aftermath, which we kind of covered a little bit already. Alfred, basically Joker's revealed to be back in the fray, and obviously Alfred's really ticked off by this, and I love. It's really endearing moment with Alfred though, because we see Alfred in a weakened state after again Eternal, but also broadly Death of the Family. He really hates the Joker after what he did to, because he killed the Bat family, and that really hurts Alfred's feelings because he always wants Bruce Wayne to kind of make a family again. That's always the goal.
Yeah.
Of course, like Alfred was the, again, it was Alfred who was used as the big pawn in doing all this. So Alfred feels responsible, and there's some other stories that show like Alfred like, has a fantasy of, like, killing Joker with a shotgun for what he did to the family, because again, he wanted, because he wished like when Joker showed up to the manor and during Death of the Family, like he just killed them there so that he would save Bruce
Right,
Wayne, like
right,
Batman
yeah.
would never have to kill all that sort of stuff. Anyway, um, so yeah, like Alfred doesn't want to be sidelining. Batman's like saying, "Look, Alfred, you can be involved. Just you have to get your rest, man. You got to stay in the cave. The
And
only
of course,
thing that."
I feel like the Alfred stuff is probably like in spite of the whole, like, hey, guess what? We're inventing a new side character in between storylines. Besides that little hiccup, I feel like it's one of the best examples of a character arc completely being carried over from the last story and growing even further
Yeah,
in this saga.
exactly. All right, so basically, they're talking about the Joker, and Batman goes to where Joker usually always surfaces, which is Arkham Asylum. So again, this is not Arkham Manor. He goes to like the demolished, destroyed remains of Arkham, which he hasn't really been to since Death of the Family, as you remember. Like you saw what happened the last time he went there, so it's like a lot of bad memories at Arkham.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Since and once he's going back to Arkham, what they basically are now vacated Arkham because of Eternal, but he's going back to Arkham, and has a really great line I wanted to highlight when he goes back to Arkham. I'll reread. It's like, oh my god, such a good line, where he says, he hates this place even more than Crime Alley. Good things have happened in Crime Alley since the night his parents were murdered. Again, he's seen good things. Again, there are good people in Crime Alley, to quote Leslie Tompkins, from the animated series and the books and everything. But it's but again, it's like it's the fact that I hate Arkham more because it's a revolving door of just like the worst nightmares. Again, like Arkham's a systemic failing that he just can't change, and now it's even in his house. You can imagine how much more ticked off he is. But just so the boy's like, Batman, he hates Arkham. So we see like visually, we see a really decayed Arkham. And I love the fly motif. The fly motif is a great build to the reveal, by the way, because again, we bring back the fly motif from the face in Death of the Family, and they're buzzing around. But importantly, the fly is not buzzing around quite yet. It's like it's caught in a web, which again is like Batman being lured into a trap, and we see like a dead rat, which like from an angle looks like a
Oh
smile.
god, yeah,
It's
yeah.
really great visual stuff Capullo's doing in building to the re-entry of the fly that's buzzing around. As you can kind of see in the image we had before, so the fly is now buzzing around once we reveal the Joker. But what builds the reveal of the Joker is that doctor I was talking about, Dr. Eric Borders. So, first view, what was your take on Dr. Eric Borders? Like, when you saw this guy pop up, like,
I mean, I honestly, it was one of those characters where, as I was reading it, I was like, okay, crap, I don't know exactly who this guy's supposed to be. Like I said, I was kind of like, I wanted to have the Wikipedia page kind of pulled up in front of me, Treg, and I was a little, I got to be honest with you, I was a little bit more worried about like keeping up with like the spark notes of it all than I was about like absorbing the character and everything. So I'm sorry about that, my friend. It's kind of a shame that I didn't get to kind of like take in these moments more, but like I said, I was more kind of just like, okay, I want to make sure that I actually know who this guy is. So I don't really have any sort of like hot take of like, oh man, this guy really, really impressed me in this way when he showed up. I'm sorry, Dragon.
okay, well, the point being, the really cool thing about Border is that Snyder, again, he knew about this reveal. So when he way back when, like during like one of the filler things, he introduced this Border character in like the annuals and stuff. Like, okay, we set up like there's a new Doctor at Arkham, and that Batman trusts, and of course, like knowing again from the design point, like he knew exactly what he was going to do with this guy. I think that's so clever. Basically, the reveal is that this whole time, this Doctor Batman's been talking to, he's been right under his nose the whole time, is this unassuming pale man, if you will, given what happens later in the book, the pale man idea. Border apparently, again, Snyder doing a ridiculous amount of research, which I commend the man for, and I love him all the more for, is that apparently Border is like, when broken down, translates to something along the lines of like a Greek translation of Eternal Jester Prince, which of course sounds like Clown Prince of Crime.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sorry. I guess I should have. You probably should have asked me about the actual reveal, not like, oh, what was your take on this specific character? Because, like I said, I guess in the moment, it is kind of like my take on it was kind of like this unassuming, like, oh, gee, I wonder if this guy's like a side character that I've never heard of before. I was kind of worried, but then, but yeah, Dragon. Just to clarify, when the actual moment came up, I was like, oh, that's clever. That's different. That's a nice new way to reintroduce the Joker that I've not really seen done before. Like him literally stealing someone's identity and just kind of like taking it over in a really kind of creepy, sort of malicious kind of way. Nice job.
And you gotta remember too, like, well, again, sorry, basically, what again, like Snyder's done things like he gave him like somewhat of a like he pulled a Batman pulled a bad exit on him essentially, where they were like they're bantering a little bit in Arkham, like Batman like. It's so perverse when you think of, oh my god, like they were actually bad. Again, it's playing to the thing Joker's been saying the whole time. We could have been friends. It's like, oh my god, it's so twisted.
Right.
And it's like it's an awesome, and it's such an awesome real because again Snyder getting the science he like the idea is like he's just gloating about for months, and again you can kind of see this too because in that scene again I know you haven't seen this, Steve, so I don't blame you for this. I'm just saying it's a fact, like when I was looking back into it, like, oh my god, like he's taking something and drinking water with it. Like, you assumes like Tic Tacs or an antacid or something, but no, oh my god, he's taking the muscle relaxers that he's talking about right now. He's taking muscle relaxers and pills for pigmentation, so he looks like it has like a regular skin color, and so he doesn't smile all the time. And basically this time's like I ran out of that, so I used makeup and kept you at a distance. And
okay, yeah, right. And Dragon, what you're pointing out right now, that's a perfect analogy of like how there's just a lot to take in with this book, and I don't think I got it all in my first reading. So I'm very sorry about that, Dragon. I'm kind of trying to keep up as I can, but this is a little bit of a struggle for me as I kind of thought it would be. But we're getting through it okay, I guess. I hope.
Right. Well, I think we are. So his point is like Joker's been hiding in plain sight, and Batman is now trapped. Like the cell comes down, he's paralyzed as Joker's telling him all this. And basically, we have the thesis that we have before us now. So this thesis again is basically the cell of the whole book that now Joker hates him, and basically the main idea, and this to me was the greatest. I even told you that basically I pulled this scene, Tiki, when I was telling you about what the book is.
Okay.
It's the idea of Joker coming at Batman. His feelings are hurt. He's fueled by nothing but hatred, and basically this is a Joker's. He's had it. Enough of like the 75. Again, this is the perfect way you would do like a 75 years of Batman Joker story. Where we do something different. Where is Joker saying, you know what, the thing we're famous for, forget that. No more games, no more jokes. I'm just here to close up shop. It's that line right there. That's what he's. It's basically no more games. I'm going to show you. All this time, I tried to help you. I tried to make you the Bat King of Gotham. I try again. He was the voice of the Bat fans, and there's like people love a solo Batman versus the Bat family. I'm going to give that to him. I'm going to tell you like you reflect your villains. That's who you are, and all the death of the family stuff. And he's saying that I basically what we learn in the book is that he tried to make him kind of a literal immortal as an immortal symbol, and Batman turned them down, and Joker ascended, and Batman did not. He's showing him like what. You never knew about me. You never all 0 year and everything in Death of the Family, the whole face thing means like you never knew who exactly I was. It's all about identity and stuff, and that's kind of what he's saying. You're like, I'm going to show you how little you knew about me. That all these years, he's Joker playing mind games with him, saying all these years, I've been taking it easy on you for us to play our game. I've been taking it easy on you with the whole song and dance, and you and I are going to do this dance forever sort of thing. So you know what? No more. I'm going to show you how easy it's taken out. Like in the first act, being the Justice League and everything else. Like I'm going to make you suffer. I'm going to kill you. And basically, the end of the issue is he shoots him point blank in the head, like in the Armored Cows, to show him how because again, right now he has Batman exactly where he wants him. He could kill Batman right now. He's just going to show you like things. It's so I'm going to kill you the most excruciating, direct way possible. No big theatrics. I mean, I'm just going to make it painfully. Basically, the final joke is
right. And Dragon, okay, I'm glad that you're bringing up the no big theatrics thing, Dragon, because I feel like that's also a point that very much separates this thing from Death of the Family. Wouldn't you agree? It's like on this. This is very much a personal story. This is like there's high stakes involved for sure, but the actual setups, the actual set pieces are very intimate. And I feel like it's a really interesting kind of contrast there between those two books.
I mean, he's like wearing a funeral suit. Like he's putting the 75-year history. Well, yeah, now of course it's 80 going on now. I'm just showing you how long it's been, man. But he's putting it all to bed. He's wearing the black suit instead of the purple classic suit. I mean, I was talking about this with Nate Productions early on when we were talking about Endgame, and it's just like it's kind of like what Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. It's like we strip away the iconography and we just kind of put him in black, and we just kind of strip him down to the barest, scariest essence, and that's definitely what we're doing here. I mean, I got to tell you, I like the look too. I like kind of like the shaved head look. It's like on the sides, it's kind of like something imposing about it. Anyway, so the grand
it's different. It's interesting, but it's not quite like edgelord Jared Leto status.
Exactly, and of course, speaking of this, well, later on we'll get to it when we get to it, but you saw the big Leto connect. So when Suicide Squad rolled around, you know why I was excited for the Joker with that one shot we never got in the movie at all.
Sure, sure.
So the final joke that he tells him here is like the final joke is going to be Batman and all of Gotham will be basically it's going to be all of Gotham's going to be laughing at Batman, and like that's the last sound Batman's going to hear. The last thing they're going to hear is laughter before Batman dies a failure. So that's what Joker's big big goal is here. And that's what he's telling him right here as again like the flies like crawling over Batman's face and just the bam point blank. It's great. All right. So let me get to part 3.
Part 3. All right, let me update these thumbnails here. Okay. 1 sec, Dragon. Let me.
So part 3 retroactively. I gotta tell you, like on a revisit, right. Part 3 is probably my favorite issue, my favorite part of the whole thing. I gotta be honest.
I mean, this is where we really start to get into like kind of like the just the very intimate, very creepy cat and mouse games with the Joker. We get some definitely some horror movie elements here.
Like again, this is where we really begin to gain traction. Where we see how bad things are. Because again, right now we kind of more shocking on the first 2 issues. 3 onwards, where things like get incredibly.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the first 2 issues were almost kind of like a cold open, if you will, to the story. Oddly enough, whereas part 3, it's kind of just like, okay, now we're setting up the world. Now we're setting up like the stakes that the story inhabits itself with.
Like never, and of course, like again, like Justice League's been taken out. It's like no one's helping Batman here. It's like him and the Bat family, and that's all. The scattered Bat family, which again we don't really have in the majority of the story because again they're still damaged from the last thing the Joker did. Essentially, that's the idea.
Right, like everyone's just like, I don't want to go up against that guy. He almost made me eat my own face. I don't care if it was metaphorical, man. That was fucked up.
Again, remember he injected them with things that made them feel like they lost their faces. And anyway, so speaking of like feelings of injections and stuff. So we open the issue again. This is the reason I asked you to reread Death of the Family because all these payoffs where we have the beginning of this issue is the paralysis thing where we see Bruce Wayne in Death of the Family. We had one of the great striking pages from that entire story where it's just Joker looking at you, the audience, like point blank, and it's Batman talking about it's Snyder using his research, talking about like all the different movements of an iris, of like an eye, and just showing you like how you can discern. Again, it's an old detective trick. You can kind of see like you can infer personality and emotions through eye movements, and Jokers never die. Like they always have love. It's always the love dilation. And we have a flip side of that here where sees Bruce Wayne. It's no Batman. It's like Bruce Wayne completely helpless. It's Batman completely helpless, without the costume, sweating bullets, and just like in utter darkness, like and with a terrified look on his face. Because again, he's in that sea. He hasn't moved. Alfred and Julia probably found him and brought him back to the Batcave, and he hasn't moved from the same position you saw him, and that's why he's standing upright.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let me see. So
we saw that the virus, because the virus is the big stake of what's happening to Gotham right now. So
yeah, so the virus is essentially like is this like the
pathogen thing? It's basically the big plague that's going to hit everyone turning into like kind of Jokerized.
Okay, right. So it's not like the fear toxin. It's more just kind of like the Jokerized, like everyone's just kind of going crazy and homicidal at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, and this is what's so fascinating about it, Tiki, is that this virus, this pathogen virus, basically it's the most. The idea is like again, Joker without any like no strings, no clues for that. He's not leaving any clues for Batman. He's like no traps, none of that. He's just going at him full force. Joker has crafted the ultimate unbeatable Joker toxin in the form of a pathogen that basically spread through laughter. Someone laughs, someone laughs. And it will spread, like through like the spit and everything. Like when someone laughs, like full heart, like the virus. Again, through laughter, it will hit somebody, and it's charged by love. Any love you feel. Of course, this is like a Batman who's done some good stuff for Gotham, and especially after again paying off Zero Year. People loving Batman, essentially from Zero Year. The public support of a very public Batman in Zero Year. Everyone, all the love that anyone had for Batman, especially the Justice League, which is why they attacked him. Any love or respect or friendship you have for Batman is turned into utter hatred. So that's why they're an angry mob of just chaos, and so that's what fuels the virus. And the virus,
it's kind of an interesting like crazy pseudoscience kind of thing there. And Dragon, that's a thing. That's one of the interesting things about this book is that I'd say like at least 80% of the stuff that goes down in this book all has to do with like different poisons and toxins and chemicals. Like I feel like poisons and toxins are the running theme of this book in the same way that faces and identity was the running theme of Death of the Family. Do you think I'm on point at all with that?
No, I think you're absolutely on point. That's the thing about this virus, Tig, is that this virus is physicalizing what Joker's motivation for all this. Again, it's the whole comedy, the tragedy mask. It's the love to the hatred. So he's basically physicalizing his hatred in the form of a virus. That, again, like they've tried every Joker toxin, the antitoxin that they have, and nothing's working. And they're completely helpless. Like every time they try to repair it, it goes back to utter hatred. It's a self-healing virus, and the only way they can cure is they have to find patient zero to kind of determine what the heck, how they even start a cure. So really interesting stuff. And the point is the search for patient zero kind of leads us to Foundry Square and then Gotham Presbyterian. So anyway, so Foundry Square, a little history lesson from Snyder, a little bit of Court of Owls going on here. So Foundry, it's like a little bit. I just love that we introduced Jim Gordon in the story. And we have this nice little history lesson from Scott Synder that Jim Gordon lives in Foundry Square because out of all like the changes that have hit Gotham, Foundry Square is like it's like the historical district of Gotham. Like it hasn't changed at all. Like, and Gordon, like with the hospitals around the corner where Gordon's children were born. Like he's a guy that represents law and order and stability in Gotham. That's why Jim Gordon lives there. I love that. It's so nice, and again, fits into the whole history and the Court of Owls and everything. It's Snyder's God knows, again, more than for 5 years. Well, 5 years in the book, and probably 10 years after, practically, and gone on to 2011. Anyway, so sorry, I was trying to remember here.
Yeah, and I'm trying to just like contribute where I can, Dragon.
Right. I'm sorry. I got it. Sorry, remember.
I wouldn't be much help on this thing. I'm
just no. I got it. Basically, what I was getting at. So when we go to Foundry Square again, this like civility of like this place, it's a constant. It's going to remind her that Gotham is bigger than one person. The idea is that we hit upon Batman as he kind of descends.
What you're saying, just so I can contribute here, basically what you're saying is that even in the worst of times, there's still sparks of light that shoot up in the distance.
Exactly, and we have this horrifying shot where Batman's making his descent by glider, and we see utter chaos erupting through the streets of all these. Again, like Batman arrives, and they're all just like Jokerized, and they're an angry, contagious mob below him. It's really creepy stuff.
I guess that does kind of like get into the ultimate kind of like this is Batman's worst nightmare. It's like Batman's whole motto is that he never kills the innocent. He doesn't even want to fight the innocent. And all these people, all these Jokers are, they've got the face, they've got the homicidal tendencies, they've got the rage of his arch nemesis. They don't have any of the intellect, which arguably makes them even more dangerous, at least in the short term. And Batman can't morally hurt any of them.
And here's the thing: it's a joke on Batman's legacy. Again, everyone you've won over is now become the Joker, essentially. That's again, Joker's like joking, like, you think you've impacted things. Look how quickly I undid everything, and I've turned them against you. Anyway, so then we have it's basically what this whole thing is about, folks. Is kind of the image we had before. So we have like a great parallel storytelling kind of thing going on here, where we have Jim Gordon's side of events, and we have Batman's side of events here. Where basically Gordon's like on the home front, trying to they're going to rendezvous after Batman finds patients here. So Batman's at the hospital, Gordon's in his home doing research on the Joker, just trying to find out some stuff here. He's doing some research. And one Joker's research, we have this great horrifying moment where what leads all of this here. So Gordon's doing research on the computer, and he finds these images. He's looking at Gotham's great tragedies.
By the way, just cue me in on when to scroll down on this image. Okay,
I'll let you know. It's when we do the editing thing, but I'll let you know. Point is, Gordon right now, he's doing research, and he finds these old historical photos of all the tragedies that have happened to Gotham, and get really Court of Owls.
Where you're gonna roll your eyes at this comparison, Dragon, but this is where the Joker kind of turns into Pennywise the dancing clown.
In a way, yes, because you're right. And sort of now you bring the play and there's dawn. I'm like, oh my god, yes.
No, it's dawning on
Yeah.
me now too. Like it's literally just dawning on me in the moment. Like, wow, there is kind of like a Pennywise quality to this.
Where Joker, he's basically in all these like ancient historical photos, and what gets creepier is that then he's in
Also,
like
definitely a Slender Man vibe as well. When was this written?
this was okay, this was 2014, basically
Oh yeah,
2014.
Slender Man was like way in public consciousness by then.
Of course, he's
So
in a
I
black suit.
definitely think that Slender Man was maybe a little bit par for the course with that at this point.
That's possible. I wouldn't put it past it. But anyway, so of course, what gets creepier is then he has like he remembers that Gotham Presbyterians where his children were born and they've had stuff done over the years. So the idea is like he sees like a photo of his kids in the hospital together, and they see like a white arm, and it's like, oh my god, the Joker was there that day with his children just within arm's reach. And again, like the big question of the whole thing is like again the whole we begin the mystery really begins here, like, is Joker an immortal? Because again, Joker's basically
Exactly. And I guess I feel like to me, Dragon, in spite of the fact that this book kind of kicks off with a bang and it kicks off with a good action set piece, you know me, Dragon. I'm kind of like a thinking man's action guy. And so when you introduce a concept like this, when you introduce a concept like the Joker potentially being an immortal and the implications of that, the ramifications of that, I'm going to take notice. You know what I mean? I'm going to perk up and I'm going to be like, all right, now this is a story. Now we're getting somewhere. This isn't just a fight to end all fights here. This is getting to the true roots of what this character is.
and again, it really puts into perspective it's kind of like the old because he's Batman idea, and that's what Snyder's been doing ever since Death of the Family with the Joker. It's like it's because he's the Joker. You don't really need to question it, but again, it's more horrifying that you don't know how he does it, and that's the thing. Like his Joker, again, we know how methodical Joker is because of Death of the Family. We know how much effort he put into making all those things happen. And like the question is like, did he like hack in the Gordon's like again? We know he's in the room. Like, did he go into Gordon's computer and doctor all those photos?
And of course,
Or
the great thing about this, from a continuity point of view, is that it's a direct callback to when he's fucking with Gordon, saying
mm-hmm.
that he's been under his bed in
This
Death of
is
the Family.
he goes to the closet, and of course he hears a knocking at the closet, and boom, a boxing glove to the face. Gordon's on the ground. We have the eyes pop out and knock knock. And again, with all of that too, again with the knock knock, it's like in the GCPD surrounded by darkness, he was telling a knock knock joke, killing all of his cops. And then they have that along with the fact that yes, Sticky's oh my god, the fact that he was seeing him under the bed because that was one of my favorite bits in Death of the Family with the whole like, I
Oh,
sleep under your bed at night. So I was reading that the first time way back when
yeah,
I was
because that was
like,
like really like one of the first times Joker's just like completely unhinged. Like, oh Jesus, like this isn't your grandfather's Joker.
well, Snyder's always said that the way he writes the Joker is he writes him as the devil. It's kind of like how he basically writes him as just kind of like the most horrifying, like almost super. Like again, he's vaguely supernatural, but again, he is like again. There's that question of how human is this guy? He's just pure. He writes a pure evil Joker, and that's kind of what we got going on here.
Sure, sure.
And oh yeah, it's complete. It's the horrifying Death of the Family payoff in the best of ways. Very devil like. Of course, he's surrounded by fire too because he sets Gordon's apartment on fire, and that's not helping. So you see the devil connection here too. Sets the home ablaze, and he's holding an axe. And we have a very a little like Jack Nicholson reference to me with The Shining and with the axe and everything.
A little light allusion to it with the crazy smiling man with the axe. Yeah, I could see that.
And we have the flip side of things with so getting back to Bat before we get to the paralleling of it all. Let's talk about the crime alley.
Okay.
So we're basically Batman finds patient zero behind glass, but behind glass, it's like a disease ward sort of thing. You have like these rooms behind glass, and behind the two rooms that are kind of linked together, you see patient zero, who is Joe Chill, the man who killed Batman's parents. Joker
Okay,
found.
now here we go. Here we go. This is where we get into the territory of like Grant Morrison style. Like, wait a minute, is this in his own head? Like, what's going on here? Is this like a hallucination? Is it some sort of like elaborate ruse by the Joker? Basically, at this point in the story, as soon as Joe Chill showed up, my paranoia was like on high alert, and I became suspicious of everything.
Well, no, T. I think it's pretty straightforward. The Joker again, so methodically, he found Joe Chill, and that's the thing because we have a line with Joe Chill later on, which says, "No, not again," and that's the thing. Like, oh my God, he found. Batman hasn't even found Joe Chill. He found Joe Chill.
No, but you get what I'm saying, though. Is that like what I'm saying is that that's kind of exactly my point. Is like suddenly Joe Chill comes up out of nowhere, and Joker just happens to find him and happens to have him there. I guess, Dragon, I guess the way you can defend it, though, is that it does kind of add to this otherworldly quality. Like you said, finding Joe Chill, obviously something Batman's wanted to achieve for a long time. Joker just kind of seemingly did it with no effort at all, almost seemingly stumbled upon him out of dumb luck, if anything.
Which, of course, in finding Joe Chill, that means something. Again, the whole Death of the Family was all about, like, does Joker know who Batman is? It was a huge component of that book about identity and everything, about who. And, of course, we basically confirmed that this Joker, Scott Snyder's Joker, does. And, of course, it's an age-old thing, like, does Joker know? Most of the time, people just say no. And, of course, I think what Snyder hit upon, but I think we all agree on, is that, Joker doesn't care. And we hit upon the fact that Joker, he's never cared, but he's never cared, and he's never. But now he's finally acknowledging it. That yes, I know I never cared, but now I'm going to use it against you to screw with you because I hate you so much. That's what he's doing right now. So, yes, I know you're Bruce Wayne. I never cared, but you know what? Since I'm closing up shop, I'm just gonna like twist it in your eye right now. It's like that. I know, and I found Joe Chill, and not only that, and this is where we get the stuff in Gotham season 5. This is the thing I was teasing up all throughout Gotham season 5. We did the Ace Chemical episode that he recreates Crime Alley.
For sure.
Recreates Crime Alley with.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Recreates Crime Alley with the kid who helped him out from 0 years. So remember that kid who found Bruce Wayne after everything went down. He healed him and brought him back to Duke Thomas, little kid.
Dragon, how could I forget?
Right. But no, the idea is that, again, it's so methodical. Again, Joker even found that kid who saved Bruce Wayne to show you how creepily he knows about Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's like, oh yeah, the kid who saved him. He used, of all the people he could have picked, he picked the kid that Bruce Wayne does recognize. And it's Duke.
So
and
you know what a cool thing for me about this is that of course with Death of the Family, the whole idea, the big payoff of that, one of the coolest things I've ever read with an idea of the Joker is that the Joker simply does not care about Bruce Wayne. He doesn't even want to know about Bruce Wayne. He doesn't acknowledge Bruce Wayne's existence practically. Bruce Wayne's existence would almost kind of shatter the illusion. It would kill the game.
Mm-hmm.
But since this is the end game after all, Dragon, and Joker that's exactly what Joker wants to do. He wants to end things. He wants to kind of create a scorched earth. So, of course, it would make sense to, because even at the end of Death of the Family, you get the sense that there might have been a little bit of a little bit of reservation on Joker's part. Like, well, maybe I can still turn him. God damn it. But by the time we get to Endgame, Joker is just completely on scorched earth with Batman.
Absolutely, it's like there's no going back, and of course, we have they're dressed exactly like Thomas. They're wearing the same exact wardrobe of Thomas and Martha Wayne, down to every single detail. Batman's going no, because again, this is his worst nightmare. Unfolding again, the whole mission of Batman is make sure a kid never has to go through this again, and basically using specifically what happened to him to ruin another family. This is where, and with the same man, with Joe Chill, it's oh my god, the head games. It's oh my god, and then we have the parallel editing. So basically, what happens is, Batman, and this is where you control the entity, guys. Batman's crashing through the glass. Joker's coming at Gordon gun drawn, and Joker threatening him with an axe. We have just great, and this is a snippet of it, folks, but it looks pretty much like this, and it's great. We have the cools and the colors.
The cooler was hey, Scott, I was just watching David Fincher movies all day. I'm gonna try and structure a scene like that.
But seriously, Tiki, how cool is this? What do you think?
No, it's great. It's great. Yeah, you're right. It's very cinematic.
Yeah, and of course we have the color contrast and everything. We have the blues of Crime Alley and the intense fire behind behind the Joker and the sweating man with the guns and everything. It's the nerve. And again, Joe Chill's saying not again, because then he doesn't want to do this either, because he's still probably haunted by the Wayne thing when he found out who he grew up to be. It's and it's just it's great. It's points Batman dives in front of the bullet. He takes the bullet in the armor for the family, seemingly saving them, and of course, Gordon seemingly has killed the Joker. And then we have, for me, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the whole thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
When Jim Gordon, of course, remember, this is Jim Gordon who, for all intents and purposes, Barbara's been, killing Joke essentially has happened, and death, and for all. probably no man's land. So the horrible stuff is happening to Jim Gordon.
I love that Gordon is just like, he finally is like, he's wanted to kill this son of a bitch for so long. And finally he's in a situation where it's like, oh my God, I see the light. Self-defense. Yep. Joker is literally trying to murder me right now, and I've got a gun on him, and I can just pull the trigger, and it'll all be over. And Dragon, of course, we know with the Joker, it's just never that easy. But of course, in the moment, Gordon is, he's kind of gullible enough to fall for it, and that's that kind of comes at the precipice of us learning about the Joker's kind of like, potential supernatural qualities. So it's all a really great horror movie build, Dragon.
And of course, again, this with with that horror movie moment too. It's the fact that Joker for ages in 75 years at that point. Again, like Joker never dies. He always comes back, and this is basically the ultimate answer. How the heck does Joker keep coming back? Well, if he's
immortal, he literally just comes back. He's literally just like, well, I was dead and now I'm not. What of it?
And that's the thing is, to me, it was heartbreaking. Like, literally, like his room on fire behind him. He's on the phone with Batman, telling him what happened. He says, "And look, he left me no choice." But I mean, he's gone though. He has tears in his eyes. He's so happy, despite being a miserable situation. He says, "He's gone. It's Batman. I know it's bleak and everything's burning, but at least there's that." Of course, as he says that, Joker emerges behind him like a satanic being, and he sends up an off screen, like we hear like and of course we know what happens to Gordon. Something really horrible happens to Gordon.
Oh yeah.
And then of course we have the line that's the dawning line. I think I want to say is a reference to Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, where we reveal that Joker knows Bruce Wayne's Batman. Where we have like this moment we're on the phone. As by the way, even more tragic, Batman, he saves Duke. He saves the kid. Of course, this kid has a recurring role in the next stories. The point is, like, Scott Synder set up this kid and he does stuff with him. So that's cool.
I kind of got the sense that we were doing some setup with that kid, yeah.
But again, this kid was set up since 0 years, so Snyder knew exactly what he wanted to do. So that's really cool. Anyway, that's why I was hyping up the whole Duke Thomas thing. Anyway, point being up. So he saves the kid, and this is important. He does not save the parents. The parents were infected, and that's going to be a thing going forward, by the way. So they may not necessarily get cured. I'll say that much.
All right.
But point is, so the parents are he saves the kid, and they're running out of the hospital and gliding out of there. And of course, we see these infected babies, and like Bruce is like, I can't think about that right now. It's just again, you're seeing it's utter horror around him. Like everyone's helpless, and just it's like a confirmation of doom is like as they leave by the skin of their teeth, you have like, "Hello, Bruce," from the Joker. And it's like, oh god, it's like Batman's worst nightmares. It's the end game, absolutely scorched earth in the literal sense. Brings us to part 4.
All right. So let me switch this out, and of course, I think I might have to do some finagling with the images. Yeah, okay. So just remind me, Dragon, you just want this, right?
Yeah, it's the top part. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. All right, part 4.
As part 4, we start off with the Jim Gordon scare. Where one,
Dragon, just to kind of plant a flag, Dragon. We have about an hour, and then we're going to run into kind of like.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So okay. We're going good. We're going on point. I just want to point that out. Anyways, go ahead.
4 is mostly exposition, so I think we'll be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have the Jim Gordon scare at the start of this thing. Where one, I'm horrified because I've seen Jim Gordon with an axe in his chest. The idea, like Joker rose and he just hit him with an axe, like dead center. Like, oh my god.
Dragon, as soon as you said Jim Gordon with an axe through his chest, I swear to God, I literally just spit took my Red Bull. I was just like, yeah, that is like Jim Gordon with an axe through his chest is literally like the most horrifying image that Dragon could possibly see. That's up there. I literally did a spit take, Dragon. I'm not even like it wasn't an over the top cartoony spit take. It was more kind of just like Red Bull spit just kind of dribbled down my chin, but still, it happened.
But again, anyway. Like reading this book, you can imagine how trippy it is for me. Like Batman's worse than ever. Like, oh my god. Gordon's been hit with the axe, and again it's in there, man. And then, of course things get even worse. Where we were again, like Gordon's like saying, you should see the again. Gordon's trying to keep with
this being Endgame, it's like you don't know, like anyone is on the table to die. It's like, of course, just to kind of milk that pre-Avengers Endgame hype while we still have it, buddy. That's the exact same feeling we're going to be getting in theaters tomorrow night, man. It's like anytime any of those characters are on screen, we're just going to be like, oh man, like Like anything could happen. Anyways,
and I'll remind you, of course, this is the other thing. So after Batman Eternal, it's like that whole story, like Gordon's in prison. I'm like every issue of that book where Gordon's involved, like, oh god, please don't let Gordon get stabbed. Don't let him get stabbed. Right. So throughout that whole story, I was convinced that I was begging. Like actually, I had talked to one of the writers, like, guys, tell me you're not going to kill Gordon in prison. and of course they dissuaded my worries on that one. But regardless, James Tynion, not Scott Synder on that one. Anyway, point being, so the point is, like, right after that, then Gordon gets, like, an accident, just like, oh, God, they didn't kill him in Eternal, but they might do it here. No! So then, of course, things get even worse, where we have this moment where, essentially, we reveal Gordon was infected, and then he, using the axe that was in his chest.
Oh, man.
Again, you gotta remember, again, if friends are turned enemies with this virus, Gordon being...
The terrifying freaking blood thinner moment from Death of the Family, which I might argue is, like, that's up there with maybe, like, the top 3 or 4 most disturbing moments in that book. Like, it's not the most disturbing moment, but it's up there.
Again, Gordon got that paper cut with the photo. That was his personal photo, and that's what triggered the blood thinner thing. Right. But yes, Steve, it's the fact, like, this is really horrifying, because again, if it turns friends into enemies, and Gordon, one of Batman's besties, essentially, one of the most trusted confidants there, of course he's going to be the most, to me, he's the most scary of all the friends turned enemies to me, because then it's like Jim Gordon with this Joker-esque smile, wielding an axe like The Shining.
Exactly.
It's like Batman's trying to calm down this kid who essentially has lost his family. Which
here's Jimmy.
God. Anyway, so he's saying, like, don't do it. He's saying, Duke, I need you to be a friend to me right now here. And of course, don't do it, kid. He's a bad friend. And of course, so that moment is horrifying. And thank goodness, Julia Pennyworth, she basically knocks him out and they stabilize him so he doesn't bleed out. The point is, like, it's, again, that moment terrified me. So, like, this book is
like Gordon calling Batman a bad friend. That's like hardcore, just like cutting right to the core of, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another analogy. It'd be like if Norman Bates was like, you know what, mother, you're an insufficient parent.
Oh God.
You know what I mean?
So even with all this horrible stuff going on, we have, like, a little sliver of hope here. But, like, Duke Thomas, after he's lost his family's been Jokerized, like, he says, he has faith in Batman. Like, I have faith that you're gonna get through this because you're Batman. So it's a really nice moment.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Batman sort of passing the torch to the next generation, if you will, which is definitely a theme that we've been running through with these new Batman books with the Bat family and everything. So it feels appropriate.
All right, then we have a little bit of kind of set up here with the Bat family coming in, kind of to save the day with Dick Grayson. So, look, I don't want to bore you with all this stuff. Just to say, Dick Grayson kind of faked his death, and he became a spy, and that's all you need to know right now. So the point being, Dick Grayson.
Yeah, once again, Dragon, Dick Grayson shows up, and I'm like, all right, sure, why not?
That's the thing. This is the important thing. The really meta thing.
Threw my hands up at that point.
Here's the meta thing, though. Okay, meta thing is that Dick Grayson, the whole him becoming a spy storyline. That's where Tom King. That was Tom King's first DC book. At least that was his first. That was his thing. It made his bones in DC during the New 52, and that's what got him to write Batman. Now he's writing he took over Snyder's spot on Batman because of that.
You know what, Dragon?
Yeah.
At least Dick Grayson didn't accompany Lois Lane on an ill-fated reporting mission to some African country where he got killed off.
God, thank God.
At least that didn't happen.
No, the idea is, like, he's kind of
the last time a beloved kid DC side character went into the spy market, it didn't turn out so well.
So the main thing that hit here is, like, we have, like, a cool visual, like, everything's going to chaos in Gotham, like Batman's invading, like, military with tanks. So, like, there's no hope for Gotham. Like, the military's turned on, just like kind of like Gotham season 5 right now. And we have at least, like,
not right now.
You know what I mean.
Current moment, but
like for the
yeah.
Point being, like, we're setting up, like, things are hopeless, and we're kind of setting up Dick Grayson calling in the cavalry right now, like things being hopeless, and, like, the two of them are in contact. And again,
we've got to call Sipka.
Not that cavalry. But it was really neat about this too. Again, we're showing that Batman's learned from a death of the family,
Get
but
it's a Riddler, man. Stat.
yes.
I'm sorry.
But
Go ahead.
what
Go
I
ahead.
really like about this though is that again it's kind of representative of 75 years of Batman because it's bringing back what Dick Grayson was created for to give Batman a back and forth because we're doing exposition here and we're doing it via Dick Grayson. So that's kind of a little classic little Batman nod there. It's
Uh-huh.
pretty nice. Anyways, speaking of that, basically that transitions us to they're talking about the three scientists that could be capable of the virus, and of course they're tied into Wayne Enterprises because you had Hugo Strange who's kind of out of town, so that means it's not him and Dr. Heffron, who was Dr. Death in Zero Year, who died that story, so therefore it can't be him, which leaves one last guy, who is Dr. Decker, otherwise known as Crazy Quilt. So again, Snyder took one. It's like how the animated series made Clock King awesome. Scott Snyder took one of the most
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right.
Scott Snyder took one of the most ridiculous, olden day, Batman villains, Crazy Quilt, who was ridiculous, and if I always took a ridiculous villain, he made him legitimately kind of compelling and kind of neat.
Okay, Dragon, I'm sorry. This is going to sound really,
Well, maybe
really
not compelling, but he made him kind of neat. That's what I mean.
No, okay, hear me out. Hear me out. This is going to sound really dumb, but like my issues with Quilt King were kind of twofold and none of it were the book's fault at all. One, I just wondered if there was like continuity with Quilt King that I wasn't aware of, like if
Crazy Quilt.
what?
Crazy Quilt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Quilt King, Clock King. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if there was continuity with Clock King that I wasn't privy to, and that kind of had me like paranoid, like, oh god, I hope I don't misunderstand something in this scene because I didn't read a side issue of something. And then also, Dragon, I'm sorry. This is kind of like the immature side of me coming out, but every time I saw Paul Decker, I just kind of had to think of Kyle Decker's evil twin brother.
Oh god. Most people go for Death
Fuck
Wish.
you, Kyle.
Most people go with Death Wish for like the whole I'm sorry, forget the Death Wish reference. I think Tiki's is right. So yeah, Kyle Decker, yeah, sure. Anyway.
All right.
So with Crazy Quilt, and this is really neat. So again, pretty much it's like this is the introduction to the New 52 for Crazy Quilt. It's kind of the Snyderian version of Crazy Quilt. Which again, pretty much like we did Dr. Death, an obscure Batman villain from the early days. We kind of reinvent in kind of that Snyder gritty yet really awesome kind of kind of the art.
Right.
It's a research-driven way here, where we basically take the idea here. See, Crazy Quilt in the comics, he was just like a crazy artist who was colorblind because of Robin. He always hated Robin because he was a great artist who was rendered colorblind because he used like that's why he wears the quilt pattern because he can't see right. That's the gag.
Uh-huh.
And the point is like what we do here, the Snyder version of it here is really cool. Is where he came from a family of artists, therefore he was an artist, but a gas leak killed his family, and that began his obsession with regenerating and kind of helping people, regenerating the work in regeneration, which of course led to a Connect to Zero Year, where he was hired by Philip Kane, Philip Kane, Bruce Wayne's uncle, who was running the company.
Sure.
And the point is that he worked with Dr. Death. The guy was also regenerating bone. This guy was regenerating on a cellular level, and that's the gist of it. The idea is like he's restitching, get it, Quilt? He's restitching cells together. And he became obsessed with along the way. And the problem was that he became crazy because of how he lost his family. He became crazed with rumors about immortality. He learned about like guys like Ra's al Ghul and Vandal Savage, the immortals of the DC universe.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That all checks out.
He became obsessed with immortality and healing from his actual research, which drove him crazy. And that's why he's like, I love the setting of this scene, by the way. It's like exposition, but exciting exposition, though, where like he's got like a machine gun or a shotgun going around the room full of these awesome looking paintings as Batman's like kind of dodging, getting, kind of having a conversation with the guy. That's a good set piece for exposition.
Dragon, I feel like that's screenwriting 101, my friend. It's like, I remember when Plinkett pointed out, like, oh, remember that scene in Star Wars 2009 when Kirk and Bones are running around the hall and Kirk is infected by that weird alien virus. It's just an exposition dump, but it's made a lot more exciting because there's something urgent happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of that whole philosophy.
Right. And of course, like a visual, so basically what we have before us here, folks, is the visual symbol of his obsession with like these paintings that he's made that, of course, are about these, these immortals. They're visually in the
Sure.
scene too. So some cool stuff there. And basically the main points here. You might want to scroll down just a smidge to the pale man there. So
Oh, okay, yeah. Give me
just a
one
smidge.
second.
So essentially, yeah.
Say when. Say when.
Just keep going.
More.
When?
When? Right here.
When? Yeah, right there. You're good.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, so getting to basically what's exposited here is essentially kind of what you see, where as Batman's going around the room, he's learning about his obsession with immortality and how it correlates to the Joker. So the idea is like he didn't. So Crazy Quilt did not create the virus because Batman was hoping this guy would undo the virus, but he did. But Joker went to this guy, he looped him in, and he basically. Like Joker did contact this guy, and that's why he gave him that creepy serum that basically, remember, it basically rotted him to the core. Remember how creepy a visual that was? He just injected himself. Basically, it's like Joker gave him a bit of the immortality thing just to screw with him and give Batman like. He basically did all this to give Batman false hope, which I think is just super cruel, by the way. Because he finds the scientist who essentially he kind of explains a few things to Batman about like jellyfish aging in reverse. It's a little bit of a Snyder nod there, like hey it's like that like the little factoids about life and entomology and I guess some marine biology and I don't know. The point is like fun jellyfish facts. But we learn about Dionysium here. That's the important thing. So we learned this guy found out about Dionysium. So
and Dragon, this is kind of where the book sort of goes all over the place for me because Dionysium just becomes such an important plot point at this point. And I'm not criticizing the book. I'm really not. I'm calling myself dumb. All right, like I totally need to go back and rewatch this because like I am not smart enough to understand like all the chemistry terminology and all the implications and everything. Like at this point, the whole book kind of revolves around Dionysium.
but just trust me, man. It's really worth it on a reread. I think.
I trust you. I trust you.
Okay, just to summarize.
It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just that I kind of felt dumb when I was reading it because the whole time I was like, I feel like there's some deeper layer here that I'm not getting because I'm not smart enough and chemistry was never a good subject for me in spite of Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, this is really cool. So, Snyder is applying some excellent pseudoscience to the history of the DC universe here, because that's basically the three paintings we have here. It's all relative. That's the idea. And they said this is a really cool, mind-blowing idea that Snyder's throwing at us here, that Dionysium, which is basically named after Dionysus. I think the idea is that Decker may have named the thing. I think that's the other. Basically, I think Joker might have done a follow-up with this guy. I think that's the main reason he went there, but on the side of it, he just wants to he's screwing with Batman a little bit. Anyway, point being, Joker's been in contact with this guy who didn't create the virus, but he probably knows the stuff about Dionysium and the immortality stuff. So this guy, Dionysus, was again the god of madness and the whole goats of Gotham thing I was talking about earlier. So that's where that's where the name of it comes from. Mm-hmm. And the idea is like Vandal Savage and Ra's al Ghul, who of course have like the immortality through different means. Like one's a meteor and one's like the Lazarus Pit. So the idea is like the meteor and the Lazarus Pit are. My guess is that the meteor is the original source, but the point being, like, the immortality stems from a chemical that's in those things. And like the Lazarus Pit is a recreation of the Dionysium, which is corrupted, which it's not the original source, hence the corruption. You follow me?
I mean, okay, here's the thing, Dragon. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I follow you, right? Like I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm getting like, to me, the vibe for me is like I'm not like blown away by any of this. Instead, I'm just like I feel like a little bit more like, oh, it's kind of like it's a little bit like it's not as insulting as the Metachlorians by any stretch, but it's in that same sort of like general ballpark of like I feel like this is maybe just a little bit too much explaining. Like I feel like this is maybe a little bit too much tying all this supernatural stuff together. And like I said, maybe it's just me being dumb and it kind of going over my head. But I don't know, man. I got to tell you, some things I just kind of like mysterious and vague.
Well, I mean, yeah, I got to remember that's a fair point. I got you. It's just, yeah, I thought it was kind of cool because again, it's like for decades, like with these things that we just have like unrelated events have like this one like little the secret ingredient.
No, I mean, it is cool. It's a cool idea. Yeah. It was just a lot to throw at me at once in the middle of this already kind of packed book that already has a lot else going on. You know what I mean?
Well, again, the important takeaway is that so Dionysium is established here, and we
Mhm.
have like this great visual of Joker swimming, which of course is a callback to like
I
where
love that visual.
and he's like in like the old Buster Keaton, like the One Piece swimsuit, which which looks great.
I
And
kind of got a Great Gatsby vibe from that visual, actually.
well, sure, I mean that's right too, but
Uh huh.
but yeah, it's the thing. It's the old timey One Piece bathing suit. And the idea is like he's swimming towards the Batcave, and again, it's the old thing from Death of Family, like it's impossible for a man to swim to the Batcave because you have to go through all the depths and the pressures
Right,
and
right.
everything. So the guys like again, the Joker's doing it right now.
And
He
it's
can
like
definitely.
Harry's doing it, and he's got a smile on his face because he's just that good and he's that cocky.
And basically, the transitioning point for us to part five is that Batman, again, after learning about the ties to the immortality and specifically the Dionysium, he goes to the Court of Owls, the guys who've been here for the longest in Gotham, to his knowledge.
Uh huh.
So, just one thing just to facilitate the transition to the thing the Pale Man of Gotham. So, I remember when we were talking about Jerome, even back to Jerome, like I kept telling you, like the whole idea of like a Joker before he becomes the Joker without giving him the label or the green hair. I always thought of like the Pale Man of Gotham based on this Tiki.
Yeah, and you know me, Dragon. I'm very much a fan of like urban mythology and unsolved mysteries and stuff of that nature. Like I obviously that's a big part of why it appeals to me so much as a story. And so, yeah, this definitely tickled me. This was probably the most entertaining element of the whole book for me in terms of, trying to figure out if the Joker is pseudoscience or if he really is just like a Pennywise style like mythological creature, like a Cthulhu type creature or what.
Yeah, and that's the fascinating thing, Tiki. Like the idea is like it's again that's what I was getting at earlier. With it's the idea like one Gotham is more than one man, but how can you say that when one man, this Pale Man mythos we kind of see right
Uh-huh.
here. This is like before the settlers hit Gotham. That's the image that's before us. Right? It's the idea like Joker was there before Gotham was even Gotham. That's a
Okay, that's
horrifying idea.
super fucking scary when you think about the implications.
Before the Court of Owls, Tiki. That's what they're saying right there.
That's almost like ridiculously disturbing.
And again, like the ideas like Batman
Like the
influencing
Joker
Gotham.
has been like on this land like eternally. Just oh man, it kind of gives me the willies just thinking about the
And like
implications.
Batman thinks he knows Gotham, and he thinks he knows it after Court of Owls. And then you throw this at you. I mean, that's the horrifying thing about this
Right.
story. And this, that's what I'm talking about. That you can get all this via the Dionysium. I guess that's kind of what I'm
Oh,
going for here. But anyway, so the point is we're at the Court of Owls, and that brings us to part five. So
okay, part 5. Moving right along, moving right through it. Just got it a little over a half hour left. So okay, let me
nice.
blow up this image a little bit. One sec. Go ahead.
Everyone loves a parade. So, part five, issue 39. This is essentially. I want to talk about the structure of this one. So, the structure is there's a 20. Basically, I guess we learned a little bit within the last issue. We learned that the virus will be incurable within 24 hours. I mean, you only have 24 hours to cure everyone. Otherwise, it's they're going to be stuck like that permanently. So we keep playing with the structure of this.
Dragon, right? I'm sorry, really quick. Why am I so vividly reminded of We're Back, a Dinosaur Story with this image?
Oh, everyone loves the dinosaur.
You know it's true. You know it's true.
Well, I'm thinking more of like the horrifying states of this, but I mean,
Well,
whatever helps.
this is like the horrifying parts of We're Back mixed with like the whimsical like John Goodman musical numbers of We're
Let's just
Back.
make Joker screw eye. Why not?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And you know how much Screw Eye might be my most terrifying non-Disney animated villain, like bar none. So
Sure.
anyways.
So basically what gets us to this point is the 24-hour structure thing. I think that's really, we kind of shift a little bit in the time. Like we go to like, an hour ago versus like, everyone gearing up right now. It's kind of keeping you guessing a little bit. We're approaching the actual end game. That's the idea. It's like this whole parade onward is the end game. This is like the final. This is
parade is literally like the parade to welcome in the end game, which I kind of dig the symbolism of that.
Pretty much, like here's the thing: the parade is Joker's end game, and what happens later on that's Batman's end game. That's the idea. So, But yeah, structurally we're doing some neat stuff there. My favorite part of the structure is the upside down bat signal. I love this. I love this notion so much. I love the idea that basically the whole thing starts with we see an image of a bat signal, basically the bat signal upside down. The bat is upside down, and we have Batman explain what this is about. It's a really great idea that the Joker made a pact with all the supervillains of Gotham that they think Batman doesn't know, but he knows. That's why I just love it. Batman's being all cutesy there, saying they think I don't know, but
it's just like there's like this whole crime syndicate that thinks they're like outsmarting Batman, and Batman's just like already 10 steps ahead of them. Like,
the idea is like when Batman dies, whoever kills, it's almost like an almost got him thing, which one of these days you'll get to. But it's the idea
I'm looking forward to it, my friend.
It's the idea like these villains, they all like whoever kills Batman.
Threw a rock at him.
Oh god! So that's the idea. Like whoever they made a pact that no matter who kills him, like or Joker put this in play because he thinks he's going to kill him, as he always would. Whoever kills Batman, they're gonna shine a bat signal upside down to signify that they've killed Batman. That basically the game's over, and and it's upside down because it's like a resting bat. They put Batman to bed essentially. It's the idea. And of course, Batman has this great line. I feel like I'm narrating my own funeral, which is great foreshadow to what happens.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so it's Court of Owls. So it's been again they've been gone for quite a spell. So they've been gone since 2011. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, it's nice to see them back in the fold. I got to admit, Dragon, it kind of gives me hope. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we saw the Court of Owls in the Gotham season finale if they wrapped up that kind of like little loose end?
Of course, there's a lot of hope that the Matt Reeves Batman will feature the Court of Owls as the main threat, which it's not off the table. It'd be a cool idea. I don't know. I'd be down for it. But anyway, so Court of Owls here, they're back. And again, the logic here is, okay, the Court of Owls, and of course we saw this on Gotham as well when we went through with the Court of Owls, the whole reason we introduced Mr. Freeze is they show how people can come back from the dead using that serum. But the Court of Owls is famous for using something that brings people back from the dead. It's called Electrum. It's the thing in the tooth. Remember, they have the metal thing in the tooth that brings them back to life.
Yeah, for sure.
And essentially, Batman remembered that, and he's like, okay, wait a minute. So again, if all these immortal things are tied together, perhaps the oldest, they're either going to know something about the Joker, whether he's an immortal or not, which is the main thing he wants to find out. And beyond that, maybe they'll know how to cure the Dynesium, like what the deal with the Dynesium is. So the Electrum, they reveal, much like the Lazarus Pit, the Electrum contains a little bit of Dynesium, and basically it serves their purposes. It's not the pure Dynesium, which means he needs a pure sample of it to cure him, which means he still cannot find. He tried the Court of Owls. He's tried everything. He has no way of curing him because of the Dynesium. The only source, as he learns here, is in the Joker's blood. The clown has the purest thing of it in the blood, which means that Batman has to do a spinal tap on the Joker. He has to plunge a needle into his spine to get the cure. That's the gist of it. That's what he learns in the Court of Owls. And we have the cool upside down city thing. Remember the upside down city?
Oh, kind of. Like I said, again, at this point, I was like very much kind of just absorbed in like all the end game of it all. You know what I mean? So remind me of the Upside Down City.
Sure, this is really cool because like way back in Court of Owls, when Batman was fighting the town, they were breaking through like these really exquisite models of Gotham and everything. And basically, the ideas of Court of Owls, since they've been underground in the literal sense, since again, basically they've been rebuilding themselves. And Batman has this line saying, "I allow you to grow as much as you grow as much as I let you grow." Basically, Batman's like, "Hey, I know your guys are operating. I'm letting you keep it small right now." But the point being, they're rebuilding the model of Gotham because again, the Court of Owls, they love Gotham, and the idea is it's a bit of a League of Shadows thing where they don't want Gotham destroyed, but the idea is like if Gotham does get destroyed the
Court of Owls is almost like the inverse of Gotham, where it's like or the inverse of the League of Shadows, where the League of Shadows kind of views Gotham as like unworthy, whereas the Court of Owls is like, don't you see that kind of the imperfections of Gotham are what makes Gotham what it is?
Absolutely. So the idea, the Court of Owls, they always want say on what happens with Gotham, and they kind of realize that even if the clown burns it down, we don't want that to happen, but if it happens, then we'll rebuild in the way we want to. So they're seeing the upside of, okay, then we can rebuild anew as we're rebuilding right now. And of course, they have this with the Upside Down City. And the big takeaway with the Upside Down City is this beautiful credo of the Court of Owls. I love it. It's a Gotham, they hang the city upside down above them because it's a reminder that, Gotham is literally above them, and we bend and shape it, but it's greater than any one of us.
Yeah, very cool.
A great credo. And anyway, so Batman destroys this because as kind of a screw, but more so, he wants to lure out the town.
Symbolism.
But more importantly, he's doing that to gain the attention of, because he always knows there's like a Talon waiting to kill him. So he brings out a
Oh,
Talon that and this is not just any ordinary Talon. This is the original Talon, the oldest Talon that the Corvals has.
oh dear.
And the fact that Batman knows this is cool, like he's been keeping tabs on the Corvals, and I love that. So, Ural Boone, the oldest Talon, basically what the other reason he went down there is to ask this guy, the guy who would know, is Joker the Pale Man? Is the Pale Man of Gotham a real thing? What is essentially is the Joker immortal? We get an answer to that a little bit later on, but anyway. So then we have they got to talk about the Joker in the Batcave sequence.
Yeah, like I said, just gotta take the lead on all this, and I'll kind of
Right.
chime in when I can.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we have Joker in the Batcave. He's made it through all the defensive. We confirmed that he did in fact make it into the Batcave and death of the family, and we have this moment where Alfred basically Alfred's fulfilling that fantasy of his where he's Batman. It's kind of a classic thing of Batman where Batman will not use guns, but Alfred he'll use a shotgun gleefully to defend Bruce Wayne or defend the Batcave.
And this moment almost kind of plays out like a perverse, like it's like a repeat of the Gordon situation almost, right?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, Alfred is getting some shots off of the Joker. He's like, taking pieces of his face and everything off again. But of course, Joker has a bit of a healing factor right now. But anyway, so Alfred, he thinks again. Alfred's getting his revenge for death of the family. He's waiting to kill the Joker here to save his family, essentially. And we have this creep bit where the Joker's he's disappeared, and then Alfred's he's unseen in the Batcave, and he's telling Alfred that I know you used to be an actor. I saw some of your performances, and he's critiquing his performances. I remember you played the fool once in a play.
Oh,
and then this is the idea, by the way, is that Scott Synder had this idea for Death of the Family, but they decided to go against it because it would have been a little too much based on how that book ends. So they saved it for here, where it says, you're the right-hand man. You're Batman's right-hand man. And of course, you're not really good at it because then he basically, with an axe, he cuts Alfred's right hand off.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. I mean, with everything else going on in Death of the Family, I think that was smart to save that moment for this story. But yeah, it's effective. It's effective for sure. It's definitely a shocker moment.
And then we get the night.
It's not a moment that's upended with like some awkward but charming comic relief banter of like, oh, I'm so sorry. Does it hurt?
Oh God. This isn't Ultron.
Exactly.
Anyway, so we do and poor Alfred. I mean, he had the shotgun, he had where he wanted, and of course, right hand gets cut off and he's helpless. Then we have the reason the Joker's in the Batcave is that he wants to collect all of Batman's trophies and basically put on this nightmare parade to kind of lure Batman to him and basically kind of
T-Rex. Let's face it. At the end of the day, everything else is nice, but he's really in there for the damn T-Rex.
There's Tiki. I know. I'm not saying this to insult you, Tiki. I'm just saying again, it's fine because it's a thing. It's like if you're. I think it's kind of obvious, but I love that people don't know this because I think it's really creepy when they find out. It's that the creepiest thing about all the stuff that he took and put on in this parade is that those dancing skeletons on top of the giant penny.
Yes.
Those are actually the corpses of Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Oh no! Oh God!
I'm serious. He dug.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Because there's the bit in the next issue where he's dancing with Martha Wayne, and he's making jokes about I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here. Get it? And of course he's
okay. But that's something that went over my head, and that's absolutely goddamn terrifying.
And you know how because right now it's symbolic of in the image we had before, but he takes off the giant fake head, and there's a little skeleton head inside of there.
Oh God! Okay. Oh,
that's how you know. The point being, so he used basically he's put on this parade the giant playing card, the dinosaur with Joker makeup on it, and the kind of balloons, very 89-esque balloons, and of course this whole parade idea very much borrowed from Batman '89.
Of course.
So he's putting on this parade of nightmares, and he's surrounded.
Story.
He's surrounded by an army of infected Gothamites. So this is the end game for him. And anyways, to keep it short and simple, the Bat family and the Rogues are reunited to save Gotham and kind of protect their interests. And honestly, though, the really interesting thing on a reread is that Batman is kind of playing into the Joker's love from Death of the Family here, because again he's honoring his role as the Bat King because he's united the Gotham Rogues as what they reflect of Gotham. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was just swallowing to chug a Red Bull there. Yeah, what's funny is that it's almost almost kind of reflective of Gordon's role on Gotham. You know what I mean? Of course, Gordon being a stand-in for Batman, if you will, where Gordon, of course, in this Endgame season of Gotham, you know, one of the big cruxes of this season is at least all the main villain players kind of come together.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, so that brings us to the big finale, part 6, the showdown, if you will. So we have like the
making
opening.
good time.
So we have the opening with Ace Chemical, which basically this is like knowing that for them what they thought was going to be the last Batman story. This again is tying all things together, where we have the Ace Chemical opening, where it's like this one page where where Batman's, and this is really interesting, where we reflect that scene we were really loving in Zero, where the idea that the Joker willfully threw himself into the vat of chemicals. Remember?
Oh yeah, for sure.
As the Red Hood, and of course the whole like there's still the Snyder's signature is that he always has that dodge. Like it's kind of here's the immortality. There it was like how long was it the Joker under the hood mask versus like just the Patsy and vice versa. I always have those kind of those in Death of the Fans, like does he know the identity, does he not know the identity? Mm-hmm. And of course, anyway.
Put it to kind of give like a thesis statement within a thesis statement, Dragon. My thesis statement for this issue is that like within all the chaos, all the big kind of like cataclysmic shit going down with the Joker army and everything like that, and Alfred getting his hand cut off, Gordon getting an axe to the chest, Dragon, it all comes down to a conversation between two very, very, very human men, you know, two men who are incredibly extraordinary, but also incredibly flawed and very... Dragon, I'm getting a little bit I'm into this shit, man. It's this is some hardcore, just like, all right, we're not going to end this with a bang. We're going to end this with like a philosophical whimper, but not a bad whimper, like a haunting whimper.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, so framing that a little bit here, again, we do have this, like we have this full circle reflection on the beginning of it all with, the fact that, it becomes something more. Like basically in beginning of Zero Year, we always had, in that moment in Zero Year, we always had the moment where Bruce Wayne donned the bat suit and he went up against the Red Hood gang, and basically the origin of the Joker was there, where basically he willfully jumped in the vat because you've upped the game, you've become a symbol, an enduring symbol. I'm going to jump in this vat and become my own enduring symbol. That was kind of the whole. Sure. And basically Batman's reflecting that moment, kind of knowing, kind of like, he was haunted by, why did he willfully jump in? Did he know what was going to happen? Like, and then of course the fact that he always has these dreams of, like, he sees the reflection of himself in the helmet of the Red Hood. And he keeps having this recurring dream or like fantasy of like, every time I think I catch him, but I don't. Every time I think I catch him on the way down, I could have stopped the Joker from being, if I just caught him somehow. If I saved him from his own actions, I would have avoided all this pain and all this horrible stuff that's going on right now. It's really interesting.
Yeah, you're right. It is a very interesting. Like I said, it's like the whole thing kind of comes to a head, not with fisticuffs or a giant CG explosion or anything like that, but just with two guys settling their differences once and for all. And it's like I said, Dragon, it's pretty satisfying for me as a fan of like intellectual storytelling. I know that sounds super pretentious on my end, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, it's one thing to have like a giant popcorn battle, but it's another thing entirely to do an ending that really sticks to landing and delivers something that's a confrontation for sure, but something that's like, if not the most physical thing in the world, leads to something that's kind of like powerful on a spiritual level. Dragon, gonna open a can of worms here. All right, the can of worms is open. That's kind of why I really loved Luke's sacrifice in The Last Jedi. All right, folks, I'm sorry. Anyways.
So, but speaking of popcorn, again, we do have a little bit of kind of the popcorn whammo with basically the Joker side of the Endgame, where Joker is seemingly victorious. We have like all this chaos breaking out, all the villains, and like Bane tosses Batman like onto the dinosaur, and of course Joker.
Yeah, you're right. The first half of the issue is very kind of like standard whammo blammo for sure.
That's cool, whammo blammo. Like we have like the chainsaw taken to the dinosaur. It's. But I love this. I love that. This is really clever. And it speaks to what he was doing the whole time here with the whole like no more games and everything. Where Joker, and seemingly Batman is about to like take the injection from Joker's spine. Like the day is going to be one. Where he hits a button and basically cues this sonic laughter that cracks everybody's gas mask so they won't be infected by the thing. And again, like I said, you'd hear laughter, and of course that's the laughter he's talking about. Then he basically releases lethal gas, like not Joker gas, just lethal, plain lethal gas. And Joker's gloating as he over a Batman, over what he thinks is a dying Batman. He's just like, look, and he basically shows him like where again he basically monologues like, look where the Dionysium is. He basically spells out to him, if you would become the Bat King, I was going to take you here where the Dionysium was, and you and I, again, he might be lying here because again he might have stumbled upon it, as we learn. Either he stumbled upon it or he knew where the Dionysium was the whole time. Again, if he was an immortal. Point being, like, I was going to take you here, and you and I were going to be able. You and I are going to be able to do this literally forever, but you rejected me, and I'm just showing you where it is, like the mystery you couldn't solve. Ha ha ha! Essentially, and then of course we revealed it's Dick Grayson. Batman got the last laugh because he used Joker monologuing over his victory to find out where the Dionysium is.
Yup.
Awesome. So then we get essentially the last dance. So Batman, he's in again, very appropriately, he's in a cave. And what I love on a reread is like, oh my god, this orb, basically the orb you can kind of see in the photo here. It's another version of the Witch's Eye, the thing that in Snyder's in Zero Year and everything we saw Bruce Wayne use like one of those 360 circular cameras to find the Batcave that he fell into, where he's accosted by all the bats. So he's using one of these to save the day here, and he's in a cave. It's all full circle, man. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Oh god.
So,
I hear you.
So he uses the Witch's Eye to find the Dionysium, and he fills it. He fills the glowing orb again with a bat symbol on it. Can't get any more on the nose than that. It's great. But then we have a brutal, utterly Greg Capullo fueled, most brutal battle you've ever darn near seen between Batman and the Joker. I mean, he's stabbing him, and he's literally.
The great thing about that, the great thing about this is that, like I said, it's not like some giant like CGI, like highly choreographed bit of fisticuffs. This is just like brutal, dirty, street level violence. You know what I mean?
I mean, what happens? I mean, the only acrobatic you have is one acrobatic move, and it's a really horrifying payoff. Where he jumps over Batman. It's like the closest thing you get to an acrobatic thing, where he jumps over Batman and he stabs him with two green knives. And after he's basically using the cut into his back, and we read this awesome.
I'm sorry, Dragon. Like, you're right, that is a striking image, but I feel like if I would have used that image for the root here, I feel like that would have literally like led to some copyright issues.
Right.
Or well, not copyright, but you know what I mean, like content issues,
Right. Okay. Anyway, point being, we have a smile carved in the Batman's back, and it's just, and again, like how much, and it's so
the passion of the Bruce.
God. So we have like stuff like that, and like they're literally like I can't, folks. I'm not exaggerating here. They literally throw fire in each other's faces. Like there's burns, and there's like fire rocks that are on fire, like they're tossing in each other's faces. And it's nasty. It's brutal. And we have this great bit where like Joker saying, the question is like, did the Dionysium make me stronger and faster, or have I been holding back all these years for you? Like, again, he's just really twisting the proverbial knife in there too. And we have this ultimate bit where like we have green fire behind him. We do one of my favorites, which again, it's a thing where I know the animated series did this, and like surely in the comics they've had this, but you rarely see it these days. Joker throwing the razor sharp playing cards, and one of them like lands in Batman's eye. Like, I've always been a fan of the razor sharp playing cards, and it's because it's Joker's answers to the Batarang. And
yeah.
Oh, the point is, it's a brutal yet really, again, it's brutal, really well choreographed, and just like, again, it's Capullo's answer to the Dark Knight Returns. How do you top Dark Knight Returns? Well, yeah, you just, again, it's like it's maybe it doesn't top it, but it equals it. It's big.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's like really trying to top anything. I think the unique thing about it is that we haven't really seen a fight like this, at least between Joker and Batman, that's this intimate before, Dragon. That's what's really striking to me about it, is that, as I keep saying, it's not necessarily the high scale of it. It's more so just the incredibly intimate sort of realistic kind of like this is exactly what would happen in real life if two guys went to blows like this.
And what we have, and that's precisely the point, is that where we have like basically we have like the last conversation between these two, and that's what's really big about this. Again, there are some big like basically stalagmites are kind of falling. Like Joker's back gets broken by a stalagmite, but again we have like these big blows that are happening, but it's really what's being said around those blows.
Uh-huh.
So like the big moment is like Joker basically puts his basically Joker tells what the last joke is before he kills Batman. What he thinks he's about to kill Batman here, where he says. Basically, he weaves the thread that Snyder's been weaving since Zero Year and everything, where it's like life doesn't matter. You know, it's all random, it's all meaningless. Basically, what the Red Hood was talking about in 0 Year. I said it when I was wearing makeup, and I said it while I was red. Basically, the Red Hood. You don't get that. You're basically says you don't get the fact that life is meaningless, and to me, that's hilarious. That's what's been hilarious for 75 years. You are a bad joke. Essentially, Batman, you are a joke. That's what he's saying to him. Your life, everything you've heard. And you got to remember, what Snyder's kind of getting at here, Tiki, is that Batman is, again, if you look at crazies that by definition as like doing the same thing over and over again, Batman keeps trying. He never gives up. And to Joker and to a lot of people, that technically makes Batman crazy. He keeps doing the same thing.
It goes back to that kind of that age-old argument that we keep having with Batman of like, does Batman create his own supervillains? Is he in this kind of like weird like cycle of abuse between his, like with the mere presence of Batman inviting the supervillains into Gotham? You know what I mean?
There's
Go ahead.
I've never quite seen it framed the way we have it here. Where again, Batman. We would label him crazy technically, but again, he's crazy because he never gives up and he keeps trying to save the day. He believes in an optimistic ideal, but that would technically make him crazy. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So of course we have so basically that's Joker's.
We're down to like 10 minutes here. So
we're pretty much at the very end.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of wrap up time here.
I got you. So, so basically, Joker, he's talking about like, you and I, we could have had a happy ending. And of course, basically, happy ending, talking about immortality. Like we could have been doing this forever. And of course, we have like the broken, bloody heart image. By the way, it's like they're both bleeding on the ground, forms like a broken heart, which is a perfect visual. By the way, it's just this knuckle down, drag out fight. And in the final moments, Batman's answer to all of this is that he admits that the pale man myth, and basically Batman has the advantage here, and he says like he calls him on it, where basically he hit him with this thing that blocks the immune things. Basically, Joker's now desperate to get to the Dionysium because he's saying, well, look, I've blocked your healing factor essentially, which means unless you have to use that pit again, which if you use that pit again, that admits that you are not immortal. You weren't there before the pit. That's essentially what he's saying there. And it's basically gets to this thing where Batman's just like sardonically holding the Joker back, saying, "You know what? I apologize. I want your forgiveness, Joker. I was wrong. The Pale Man, you're right. And just forgive me." Of course, as he does, the pit gets seemingly destroyed and everything. It's like, no, and now Joker's panicking. Basically, what he's panicking at, the big joke, Batman's joke of it all, right here. Batman's answer to all of this is that he accepts death. It's that, yes, life is meaningless. And all this, Joker's like saying, like, you want to be this immortal idea, you want to be a symbol for people, and a kind of a symbol that's pointless, and something that could endure forever. And Batman's like, it's like that. No, you could. Basically, Batman's saying that I'm willing to accept death. I'm going to do all this, and it seems to be crazy, yes, and I will accept death versus immortality. I won't be the Bat God. I won't be the guy who knows everything that could always find a way out of death. I could cheat death if I wanted to, but I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I say that Batman could, again, he had Lazarus Pit, you got Mr. Freeze's tech, you got time travel, he knows that members of the Justice League, he could survive if he really wanted to. He can never die if he was like the Grant Morrison Bat God. But Snyder's version of it is like, no, I'm human. I know I'm doing something crazy here, and as long as I'm doing good, I'm fine with dying one day. And that's what Joker can't accept. Like, what? No, it takes away the teeth of his victory. Like, I've taken away something that you want, and that's where we end here. Where basically it's all chaos. Batman sacrifices himself. He accepts, like, I'm going to rest here a while with my friend, which is kind of the acknowledgement of like, Joker and I. This is I'll go out happy if I take him out with me, and we do reflect each other. It's the end of an era if he and I.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I guess the last thing we have is of course the Witch's Eye going up too, and that's kind of again the thing that spawned the Batman in the first place is now going up with the bat symbol on. Then we have the Ha. We got to talk about Ha, and I think that'll be it.
Okay, take us through it.
Okay, well, Ha is basically is poor Alfred. You know, we have like this vigil for Batman going like, turn it away.
I
I don't
love
want.
the visual with all the different bat symbols. That's great.
And Alfred just can't stand to
Kind
look
of
at it
makes
'cause
me wish we would have gotten that in the Nolan Batman movie at the end.
yeah, it would have been cool. And Alfred refuses, and this is a heartbreaking bit because Alfred just can't stand to look at the visuals because he's basically a reminder that he's lost his son essentially. And Julia's saying, "Well, you know what? You know, you should we should talk about getting your hand fixed because you know we can reattach your hand and everything." So there's no point in it. I have no one to mend anymore.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
that's a heartbreaking line. And basically, we talk about this note. Julie's telling Alfred about the. Can you make heads or tails out of this last note that Bruce Love just says "ha" on it? And Alfred explains beautifully here, and this is basically Snyder's philosophy on Batman that you know Batman is like everyone else. He's a symbol, but again, he's a symbol of humanity. A thing that people come into Batman with a lot is that you know people love Batman because he's a human guy. Like, he's an achievable goal. If you like, if you trained and everything, you could anyone could be Batman.
Mhm.
And it's the idea that you know he could have found a way out of death. He could have, you know, he could have done all. It's like there are no Deus ex machinas at the end, which is what the last visual is, where it's like it's the trust, it's the you know the thing from the theater in the garbage can with "ha" written over it. Where Batman's whole thing, what Snyder's been going for since you know Zero Year especially, was that Batman's all about the optimistic smile in the face of all these terrible things going on about you. That life is random. My parents died because of a random act of crime, which is all the more reason you should. I'm fighting so people can live out their lives without fear, and that's basically what the message is at the end here. That you know you know, it's like Ha in the face of everything going down around you. And the great thing about Ha specifically is that Death of the Family ended with Joker's version of Ha, which is like you know the avoiding which is you know avoiding death and then rather than face like Joker's always going to be back. It's like ha ha ha, I'm not dead, I'm coming back. And Batman's version of ha is like you know death's going to come, but you know like laugh at the things you had in life. You know like you know it's Batman always has this connection to death with ha, so you might as well live out your life. And so again, it's like kind of like a dichotomy there, like the tragedy of you know the comedy of ha and the tragedy of ha. You follow me at all?
I guess so, Dragon. Yeah, I hear
Well,
you.
well, what do you think about the ending?
I mean, like I said, I'm mostly invested in the you know the ending stuff with Joker and Batman, and honestly, kind of like the whole stuff of honestly with the Ha, I don't really get it that much. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean that's fair, but I mean the basic thing is okay. It's like Joker said "ha" and Batman said "ha," and it means different things. One's optimistic, one's more negative.
No, I get that. It's just again, it's one of those things where it's like I'm sure if I read it again and get kind of like all the thematic like overtones of it, I'll like appreciate it a lot more. But you know, just generally speaking, I do like the ending a lot. You know, I think we of course we need that little bit of wrap up with Alfred. You know, that's kind of needed. You know, I don't know what else there is to say, Dragon. And I am kind of like verging on like not being able to talk at all.
Oh,
So
we're at well, I guess well again that's pretty much summarizes
okay.
the end of the book. So we're kind of at the final thoughts right now. So again, final thoughts after all of it. Tiki. How you feeling?
Yeah, after all of it, you know, I gotta say, Dragon, it's a fun exercise in geek culture, if anything. You know, like because this is something that we have had planned in the back burner for a while now. Like, hey, we're gonna talk about Batman Endgame right before Avengers Endgame. We're gonna be all really clever and meta about it. So, Dragon, I hope I did my due diligence to make that a reality. As I said, a lot of this stuff, out of all the Snyder and Capullo books, I feel like this is the one that would benefit the most from a reread. I really do, because I feel like there's just a lot of different layers and sub layers of context going on, a lot of different themes at play and symbols and ideas. And I just like as of right now, you know, like having breezed through the thing in like maybe 4 or 5 hours, I really don't think I got my whole experience with it. I really do want to revisit it. So, but with that in mind, you know, for what it was very interesting, very cool to read. I think the strongest note was the idea of the Joker being kind of like this mythological sort of like urban legend and Pennywise character. And yeah, you know, just overall very well done, very well handled. Like I said, I don't necessarily have the you know, the attachment of the years of waiting for this thing and literally interacting with Scott Snyder at Comic-Cons and seeing his success grow and grow. Like, I don't have that personal connection like Dragon does, so my appreciation for this, folks, can only reach a certain level of hype that's just not going to be matched by Dragon's level of hype. You can understand that, but at the end of the day, I think it's a very solid book. But I'm sorry, Dragon. I have another Endgame on my mind right now.
Well, you might want to switch back to the root image.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Of course, we always have that Endgame on our minds, certainly. But I mean, still, this is as kind of our DC equivalent again for Batman. Again, I think it's a pretty good Endgame. I mean, also the other thing I probably should have stressed, but I got to stress in the final moments here with all of this, is that the really cool thing about this story, the thing that really hits me about, is that it's a bold story. To me it's far better and direct a version of of a Death of Batman story. We've seen a couple of those done. Like Grant Morrison took a stab at, which I was I'm really not impressed by it, but that's just me. I'm one of the rare people that's not a huge fan of Grant Morrison's. But I love Grant Morrison's Superman. Grant Morrison's Batman's fine, but a lot of times it's a little that to me is that's convoluted. But
Okay.
My point is, I think the big thing Snyder really went for, I think it differentiates this from a lot of that sort of stuff, is that this story is not about death. It's not about the death of Batman and the Joker. It's not about the death of these characters or the how. It's not like, how do they die, or like the fact that they die. It's a big event. It's not about that, because again, they would, when they market on it, even if they market about it, they would have been kind of a disaster. But importantly, it's about the why. It's about why Batman has to end. It's about that humanity, and that's what this whole thing is about. The fact that Batman would choose the kind of that human ending of no, I'm not going to go on forever because I'm very much human and very much vulnerable, and again, to live forever. Again, it's basically saying that Snyder went into the story, and everyone kind of went into the story knowing that, it's comic books. Of course, it's going to get undone. So even if we kill them, they're going to come back. So he and Capullo smartly made the call that, what, we're just going to tell this story again. For all they know, it's the last one. They didn't. And here's the thing: amazing what Scott Synder and Capullo keep doing. Every story, for all they know, is going to be their last. They kind of approach with the mindset, we're going to get kicked off. We're going to get kicked off the book after this because we're doing crazy stuff. So we might as well just put everything in the kitchen sink into it. And they do, and it works out. And again, this has a good definitive ending, and the next story they do also has a really good definitive ending. That again is kind of the ending to everything. And right now, Tiki, what they're doing currently, they're doing a story called Batman: The Last Night, and essentially that's literally called the Last Night on Earth. It's called, it's like an end of the world story with Batman. So again, the point is these guys know how to do endings for Batman. This ending again is an ending that is not about the death, but the fact that Bruce Wayne will die, but of course Batman will endure, and no matter how he comes back, no matter what convoluted way he'll.
Hello. Oh shit! Right at the end there. Huh, we were running so good, and then you just cut out.
Darn it.
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, was that you or me?
No, that was me. Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live. We're good.
Okay, sorry, let me get back to the point here. Okay.
Yeah, just wrap it up really quick, man, because
Right. Okay, the point being, again, they told death story without doing the conventional stuff, and it's like they keep pulling off the impossible here with I thought was a really good ending. It's again they keep pulling this sort of thing off. I'm just very impressed with it. This to me is a work that is kind of a monument to the Batman Joker's enduring dynamic for in this case 80 years going strong now. It's with the best people telling this sort of story. So again, I couldn't be happier with Endgame. I was very much fulfilled by it, and top marks for me. And again, it's no death of the family in terms of what that story was. Not my favorite story, doesn't mean it's not a great one. So
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. And of course, we will be back late my time. So even later if you're on the East Coast. But we will be back tomorrow night to talk about the other Endgame, the Endgame that, let's face it, most of our audience probably really wants us to talk about. Not that they probably don't appreciate this, but, it's Dragon, you got to admit, there's a little bit of clickbait going on here. You know, it's like people see Endgame and they're like, oh, Endgame.
But again, Batman Endgame, folks, say whatever you will about the Avengers Endgame, but remember though, Batman Endgame came first.
All right. And on that note, folks, I will see you on the other side of Avengers. It's going to be a hell of a night tomorrow. And let's make the best of it as a fan community. See you guys later.